think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
Man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our coverage of the PlayVS Fall 2019 Championships. My name is Nekra, and I'm going to be your host this evening, and we just saw a fantastic series of Rocket League where Bob Jones High School took home the Fall Championship title. Now we've got League of Legends, and with Bob Jones High School coming off of that championship win, they now have their League of Legends team that's going to be battling it out against Thompson High School. And to bring you the action, we have got our two amazing casters right back at you, Kios and Perino.
Welcome back, everyone. We got Bob Jones High School versus Thompson High School in a League of Legends match here. It's I'm Not Kios and Perino back. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Fancy seeing you here again.
Yeah, what a series we had before here, and now we find ourselves together again here. A great Rocket League series here. Excited for another great one of League of Legends here. It's going to be best of 3, not best of 7 here, so the time might be about the same here. We're going to see a little bit less games.
A little bit less games, but games, I think, of League of Legends will typically go a lot longer in this case. Rocket League games only 5 minutes. League of Legends usually a bit north of 5 minutes.
Yeah, usually they're in the 20 to 30-minute mark. Sometimes they go a little bit over that, but especially in the meta we have right now, the games are pretty quick here. And excited to see these guys go ahead clash on the Rift here. And we got a look, maybe going to take a look at some of the champions we might see in a moment here. But before that, we got the brackets here to see how these guys made it to the finals.
Yes, and taking a look here, Bob Jones High School coming in as a strong team in this tournament. On the top side of that bracket, you can see taking down the Falcons and run it down there in the final against the Thompson Warriors, who, if you look on our bottom side, took down the Bulldogs Gold and the JCHS squad. So, yeah, both teams really grinding their way through this playoff bracket. They're here. They're ready to go. I am so excited to see what these players can bring to the Rift.
Yeah, and we've got a great match for sure coming up here. We've had a lot of quick matches, a lot of 2-0s and a lot of quick games here. The pace of the game has been really fast. We saw a series in Rocket League earlier where the pace of play kind of varied a little bit, but it was a bit slower. Bob Jones wanted to slow it down. We'll see if their League of Legends team wants to do that as well, or if we're going to have a very fast-paced game here. But I'm excited for this one here. So in a second, we'll take a look at some of these champions these guys are going to play here. But before we do that, any predictions before we go in here? Bob Jones just took a title earlier on. Do you think they're going to take another one?
I like them to do the double here. I think they're coming in as the top seed in this bracket. They clearly have a strong program at that school. They have worked hard to get to this point. I would like to see them do the double.
Yeah, and it's so amazing that a school like this is committed to giving them an opportunity to play all the students there, and now they get to compete in 2 different games. Really amazing stuff from them here. And like we said, game's a bit quicker here, or a bit longer than Rocket League, but a bit quicker overall in terms of the meta right now here. One of the strong champions recently has been Rek'Sai in the jungle. She's been a thorn in everyone's side here. Gets picked early on, super powerful, and that's been kind of a theme throughout this, has been junglers being picked early on alongside bottom lanes, but junglers can control the pace of play early on a lot of the time here. And we're going to take a look at some of Rek'Sai's abilities here.
Yeah, jungling is not my forte, certainly as a League of Legends player, so I think I might defer to you on this one a little bit more. But Rek'Sai, a great champion in this meta, as you can see all the different abilities displayed here. Can you talk to us a little bit about what these are and how they affect the game?
Yeah, so the main sort of focus of her kit here is the burrow unburrow. As you see, as she sort of goes into the ground here, she actually gets less vision. But if people move, she can actually sense that. That's why those little ripples are happening here. So she will actually burrow unburrow, and as she burrows and unburrows, she gets different abilities here. You can see one tunnel, which she makes here. She can set those around the map, and she can travel faster through them. So she can only do that when she's burrowed, but when she is burrowed, she gets those unique abilities. She heals a little bit more, and then can use those tunnels to travel around. So that's one of the strong things as a jungler, is you need to move around the map quite a lot here. So using those tunnels, setting them up as sort of like highways, pathways to get through is really, really helpful here. While she's unburrowed, though, she does quite a lot of damage here. You can see she's got 2 different damaging abilities, one while she's burrowed and one while she's unburrowed on her Q here. And then when she comes unburrowed, she can also find the knockup, so that's key in ganks early on here, especially setting up with certain laners.
I was just about to say that I feel like the ability to burrow and to be able to jump into a lane like that, so effective early on with this fast-paced meta, right? Certainly can set up some early ganks and some early success in that area.
Yeah, and she also gets some burst damage on the backside with her E, able to bite people basically with those strong pincers. And she also gets this Void Rush, the ultimate you can see here, which as soon as she tags someone with that little mark you see, she's able to basically ult on them wherever they go. And it just follows them. So even if you have some sort of escape, if you use it before she actually gets onto you with her ultimate, she can still follow you. So you got to be very careful with that. And that's one of the reasons building a Zhonya's Hourglass can be very powerful, because you go into stasis so you can avoid that damage when she comes up from that ground and leaps onto you here. But she is very powerful getting on that backline. She can flash onto you. She can flash wall. She is burrowed. She can flash on you, find the knockup, and then find a bunch of damage. Finish it out with the Void Rush ultimate to find that execution.
Absolutely, and that is such great information to have. I want to bring up a point, because we talked about the meta, right? And for those who may not be familiar with League of Legends as a game or as an esport in particular, give me a quick rundown of what the meta means to players, because this is a game that changes very dynamically all the time.
Yeah, so the game changes. There's a lot of balance patches. League of Legends has quite a number of them. Usually every couple weeks, one will come out to tweak the damage of things, change the map itself sometimes. We talk a lot about the junglers here. The jungle caps, which they actually take to gain experience and gold, actually changed a lot this season here. So you can get level 3 off of just 3 camps and have access to all those 3 abilities, which Rek'Sai needs to really find a good gank. So that's really good for her, and you can get around the map quite early on and set up a lot of ganks. So there's going to be a lot of interaction between the junglers and the laners here, and that's what's sort of propelling the game into a bit of a quicker meta here, as we talked about. The game just ended earlier because so much more is happening early on, so much more gold is being traded here. But another champion that's very good in this meta here is Lucian. He's quite good in the early game as an AD carry here. The main sort of focus of his kit is whenever he uses an ability, he gets a double shot. That's his passive. So whenever he uses any of his other abilities, as soon as those abilities end, he gets that double shot, which you can see here being used on the Thresh in just a second after he uses those abilities. Yep, there you go. And that is big for damage here, especially when you have on-it items like Play the Rune King. You essentially get extra damage here because each time you use that auto, you get that extra effect.
Right, and because the role of the AD carry, right, working in the bot lane, is to really provide that high amount of damage onto targets, both in the lane and later in the game as you group towards team fights. You want to be building towards having a character that can really provide that level of power throughout the entire match.
And Lucian is one of the lower range AD carries overall, but he does have a lot of ways to deal with burst damage and also have ways to sort of chase down people. He's got the E, which you're about to see in just a second here. The Relentless Pursuit is a dash. You can go in any direction, and you can see the Lucian went to the side there, but you can go in any direction. You also get that double auto after, as we talked about with his passive here. His W also gives you some movement speed. That's the culling there, the ultimate that was just used. That's going to channel and do a lot of damage, and then, of course, after you get that double auto, as we highlighted before here. So a very useful thing to do is to try and use your Relentless Pursuit early on, and then use all your other abilities so that you get the double shot out of them, because as soon as you use the passive auto, you actually get some cooldown off your Relentless Pursuit. So Lucian is a very ability-focused champion, and it takes a lot of skill to use because there's so much just going on with his kit, so many abilities you got to use in tandem with your autos to make sure you get the maximum damage.
Yeah, such a very technical champion to play. I'm going to be very interested to see, actually, in the champion selection that we see from these teams. I've noticed during our broadcasts here that sometimes players tend to strictly stick to the current meta, champs that are very good right now in this patch. But you don't have to go that way. You can go different directions with your champion selection. Yeah,
when we talk about the meta, there's usually a select number of champions that are kind of good at the moment, right? Because people, they synergize well with the type of game because, like we said, the pace of the game right now is very quick. So Lucian and Rek'Sai are good with that because they're very good in lane, but also have that potential to spike really hard in the mid game as well. But sometimes people say, all right, I'm really good at this champion. Maybe they're not the best in meta, but because I'm so good on this champion, I can use that in this meta anyway. Or they adapt the build to fit the meta. So there's a lot of champions like that. We've seen use of a Volley Bear in the past. We've also seen use of Ezreal, who's kind of an off-meta champion at the moment, sort of lingering around the fringes of it. So there's a lot of champions that people have picked up recently that they love to play, but aren't necessarily the best at the moment. Because they're so unique in terms of their picks, people just aren't really prepared to play against them. And sometimes that has the hidden value of like, well, if you don't know what's going on, then it's hard to fight against it.
And there's another layer to it as well because, again, as you'll see coming up here in a moment, teams have the ability to ban champions from being played when they go through their selection process. So it makes an interesting point of, okay, do I ban a champion that I know is really good at the moment, or do I try and target ban a champion that I know the other player is really good with?
Yeah, that's a big dilemma. All right, maybe they'll play that meta champion and just go with it, and that'll be it. But sometimes they also have the secret pocket pick. So you got to study your opponent a little bit, figure out what they want to play, try and ban that away. But sometimes there's also adaptations through the series here in that draft phase of trying to ban away stuff and also pick stuff. A lot of stuff going on in the draft phase takes a lot of preparation, but also adaptation during it here. And it looks like we're going to get a look at some of the players here that we're going to see in the match coming up in just a moment.
Yes, we're going to take a look at Bob Jones High School first. We have Scott, Amber, Kwong, Riley, and Tyler talking about their roles, their favorite champions, and favorite movie. I have to say, I really love Scott's answer for his favorite champ. I play them all. You know what? Just give me anyone, and I'll be good at this game.
Yeah, he must have a large pool, and certainly top lane's one of these unique lanes where you can play pretty much anything. Like, a lot of things work in top lane. Range champions, melee champions, tanks, assassins, pretty much anything going in the top lane. One of the most unique lanes in the game here. So cool, he has such a big champion pool. And Die Hard, a Christmas movie?
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I don't know. I love. I think it's a great movie. I'm gonna stay away from that one. I don't want to give any controversial opinion here. But I also love Kwong's answer as well. Favorite movie? I play League, dude. I love it. Grind it. Own it.
Yeah, someone very, very dedicated here. Doesn't have time for movies. He's got to play League of Legends, get better here. And looks like all these guys here coming in with some favorite champions. Scott Arsh just saying, I play them all. I respect that here. But it'd be interesting to see the Echo and the Kane, junglers we've seen before. Kane had a bit of a rough game, but Echo was very, very effective here. So excited to see those champions potentially in the jungle as they do bring a little bit of unique presence there, as they're not the most common picks, but I love to see these teams bring out some unique things. And Pyke, the favorite champion, the AD carry, usually played as support, but we have seen Pyke AD carry in the past, so it'll be interesting to see if we actually find a crazy bottom lane with like Pyke and Nautilus or something. That'd be really cool.
I was going to say, that would be something so interesting and dynamic to see, because you'd have two very tanky champions, if you will, in the bot lane. Such an interesting challenge to go that route.
Yeah, it definitely puts a lot of pressure on you guys to find some takedowns early on in that lane to accelerate that, but hey, if you can do it, that'd be amazing here. So let's get a look at their opponents.
Yes, and we're going to switch right over to Thompson High School. We have Kobe, Nolan, Cameron, Allen, and Ann, each with their positions, champions, and favorite movie. I have to say, the Gangplank top, I want to see that so bad.
Well, it is interesting because Gangplank is one of those champions who is always known for his scaling. He wants to go late game, and the way the game is now, it's so much fast-paced. Sometimes Gangplank just never really gets to where he wants to be. But because of Gangplank's pit, he does have a lot of ways to accelerate his gold income. So perhaps if he has a favorable match on the top side, we could see that GP and then find that spike in 20 minutes, and then we'll get some huge barrel explosions. It'd be really interesting to see that Gangplank for sure here. But another thing we can take note of, the Yasuo bot lane, another uncommon bot lane pick that has been played there. Maybe we'll get some crazy bot lanes this series here, because these guys like some champions that aren't typically played there, but can certainly be put down there with the right, complementing support.
Yeah, you normally see Yasuo in the mid lane, and such an aggressive champion as well. Very technically challenging champion to play. Yasuo is one of those champions that either you can go boom or you can go bust. Such a dynamic champion to play. I love watching these guys come out with Yasuo picks, because it really can go either way with that one.
And we also have the Lee Sin for their jungler. One of the most popular junglers, but also probably the most difficult to play for sure. Very mechanically intensive. He has the potential, again, to go boom or bust. Lee Sin not as reliant on items and gold as the Yasuo is, but sometimes you can either make that game-winning play with that insect, using that Dragon Rage to knock an important enemy character into your team, or sometimes you knock their tank in and all of a sudden things go a bit rough. So gonna be important to see how that, if he does get at least in, how that goes, because it's such a volatile champion and the skilled players can just take over games.
They certainly can. But a quick shout out to Kobe too. Favorite movie? Lego movie. Very strong choice. I'm a big fan of that.
Indeed. A lot of interesting movies for sure. Lego Movie rather. I actually really enjoyed that movie, and there's actually a series coming out with like people building Legos. My brother was a huge fan of Legos growing up. We had so many in our house, it was ridiculous. It was just filled the entire thing. We spent a lot of time with all sorts of building stuff when we were younger.
And I imagine even working with Legos too, if you are playing League of Legends, playing on PC, you can even help build your own PC as well if you really want to get into that. So it can be an important skill to retain.
Yeah, certainly helped me when I built my PC, just fitting all together, all the little parts.
It's the best part.
I may have put the processor on backwards at one point, but I fixed it. So that's the good news.
As long as we're good.
As long as we're good now. The computer's fine now, but I did, when I first put it together, put the processor on backwards, looked at it, said that didn't look right, and had to pick it up and put it around. But everything's fine now, so a little hiccup there, but excited to get into this one for sure here. As we highlight, some of these guys have some favorite champions. Love to see some interesting draft picks. We talked about the Yasuo, even the Pyke bot lane. That'd be really interesting here. And bot lane's been such an important part of the meta recently, especially in the early game here. And if we get champions like that, the bot lane will become even more important.
Absolutely, and we're going to be bringing you that draft very shortly, just a moment. It can be such a crucial element of the game. So many decisions before the game even starts, right? That's what I love about League of Legends in particular. There's so much strategy, and again, we're going to pull up that draft for you guys right now.
Yeah, there's so much strategy going in here. Basically, the format is each team gets 3 bans to start things off, then 3 picks. They'll swap back and forth. So Bob Jones will get that first pick here after they ban one away as well. They will get first pick, then 2 picks for Thompson, 2 picks for Bob Jones, and then 2 picks for Thompson again here. This will be the same format with the bans here. 1 ban, 2 bans. So back and forth here to sort of even out the advantage of going first or second.
Right, so again, talk to me a little bit about counter picks as well, right? So when you see a certain player take a certain champion, okay, I know this champion is good, but they might be poor against a different champion. So how do you level playing what you want to play versus playing against what your opponent picks?
Well, I mean, that's always a tricky thing. You got to balance. You also have to think about draft order here. But when you do have that counter pick, right, they've already picked their top laner, mid laner, or whatever it is. You got to figure out that matchup. So a lot of times melee champions in particular can struggle against range champions because they can harass them in lane. But there's also sometimes unique interactions here. So things that counter, other champions. A common support, Nautilus. He's very engage heavy, wants to find a hook with that dredge line. Brahm's very good at engage, sort of nullifying engages here because he can put up his shield, protect his teammates, and just make sure his AD carry is fine. Braum also good against Misfortune, being able to block the ultimate with his shield is so powerful here. So there's some unique interactions with champions where they can certainly counter them or make them a lot less effective than they normally would be.
As again, it looks like our first series of ban picks are in, and we're going to be bringing you the first selection from I'ma Miss You, Bud.
Yeah, we got the Gangplank you wanted here. First pick, which is a little risky. Gangplank cannot fare too well in some lanes here. He's a pretty safe laner, but still can be exploited here as we get Rengar and Pantheon back, which Pantheon may be going up towards the top side. We haven't seen him played yet, but he's incredibly powerful in lane and certainly make life very, very difficult for the Gangplank. Potentially flex to mid lane, but I think this is a top lane pick up against that GP.
It certainly is, and again, Talos coming in with the next one that looks like an Echo, probably going towards the jungle, I would assume.
Yeah, they already, he said that was one of his favorite champions here, so we're going to get to see the Echo jungle, which is incredibly strong. We saw it just yesterday, actually, in another match where he did incredibly well. Echo jungle, very strong if you can get ahead here. Very, very powerful champion, but it does take a little bit of skill to use because a lot of his abilities are timing focused. You got to play around that parallel convergence when that comes down to find those big stunts. So it'll be interesting to keep your eyes on that, but Analysis in the bot lane here. Very, very powerful picks from both sides so far, but I think Thompson has gotten a little bit of an advantage with the matchup in terms of the top side right now.
And top lane can be such an interesting lane to work with as well because, again, particularly in this meta, it can be very difficult to affect the outcome of the game from the top side. If you don't have the help and support from your jungle, it can get very lonely up there.
Yeah, top laners always have been known to be just kind of left alone. It's like, hey, you're just going to be here, and we're going to play around this side of the map. That's especially true of the dragons nowadays. However, there are Rift Heralds up in the top side, which can help knock down turrets, which can be big. So picking those up is awesome. But Bob Jones have sort of decided we're going to sacrifice the top lane a little bit here. GP is generally not a champion you play around too much because he doesn't really have the gank setup you want. And he's just kind of waiting until he can get to the Triforce, to the crit items as well, so that he's super strong later on here. So Bob Jones, it looks like they're going to play a little aggressively more towards one side of the map here, towards the bottom side and maybe the mid lane as well, and just say, GP, scale up. Hopefully you can stay strong as long as possible, and then you'll be our late game insurance.
Certainly looks that way as we're getting more picks coming in. Thompson on the bot side taking in Ezreal.
Yeah, we're going to get the Ezreal AD carry here. Haven't picked up a support yet. That'll be their last pick for sure. They know it's a Nautilus, and their response will be a support. Galio. Interesting. Haven't seen him in a long time, but his ultimate can be very big. The heroes, like the ability to support your teammates with that ultimate is incredibly powerful. The hero's entrance has been nerfed in the past, not as quite as powerful as it used to be, but being able to come in, help your teammates, protect them is so powerful. So, and kind of an old bot lane duo coming back here.
And the role of the support can be so interesting as well because you're really not focused on trying to eliminate other champions or really work for yourself. It's more, in that sense, about providing vision for your team and providing the assistance where you can get it.
And Galio and Nautilus are also interesting because they're two different kind of coins in terms of two different sides of a coin in terms of supports, right? Some supports are very, very aggressive and they want to engage and help their team in that way. Some supports play a little bit more defensively and protect their teammates. Galio is a little bit in between, but he's definitely more towards the side of protecting. He can definitely engage, but a lot of times what he's doing is he's using his taunt to try and defend his teammates here. So if they engage onto you, the Nautilus hooks in and tries to go on top of us. I'll taunt them both, and then you can dish out the damage here. So whereas Nautilus is more about the dredge line, trying to get in there and also find the CC to set up for his Jhin here, which is going to be his partner in the bot lane, and set up for those big plays, you know, front in the laning phase, but also in those team fights. So kind of different sides of the supports here, but Bob Jones and Thompson both have put together some good compositions here. I like what Thompson have done with the top lane advantage here, counterpicking that here. But if they don't, you know, punish the GP too much, then Bob Jones can kind of get out, you know, can kind of outscale them here, and the GP can just tear apart the entire team. Because right now Thompson have a lot of damage, not a lot of health to deal with that damage.
Yes, and I was just about to say the same thing, that there's really not a ton of health to go around, and when you have that scaling issue later game, it can prove to be such a disadvantage unless you specifically build items to counteract that effect. You can easily be punished for that very late on.
Yeah, and one of the problems with being the champions that Thompson have picked is that they can itemize defensively, but the way their champions work in general don't really incentivize that. Rengar is the only champion who really has a way to heal himself and could potentially build a little bit more tanky to try and deal the enemy team. But really, Thompson doesn't have a way to, you know, absorb the damage. So if Bob Jones does get into a situation where they're a bit ahead, or the GP starts to get really, really strong ahead of time, that's very, very scary for Thompson. They don't have a great way to deal with that because the GP barrels are AoE and will just deal a ton of damage to Thompson.
Well, guys, it looks like we're about to jump right into the first game here. This is Bob Jones versus Thompson, getting set up right in the early game here. A quick invade into the jungle.
Yeah, gonna throw out the dredge line here, but a flash away. Nicely done. It will be actually a top lane Rengar and jungle Pantheon. A little bit abnormal here, but Rengar sort of the same thing at Pantheon. He's picked here to punish the GP in lane, to try and you know, force defensive play of the GP, lose CS, perhaps even, you know, fall, and you know, the Rengar can grab a takedown there. So a little bit of a different look. But the Pantheon has a bit more simplistic ganks because he has a point-and-click stun, whereas Rengar does not. He has a skill shot in order to find that CC. So a little bit of a different look here, but the Rengar in lane is very, very scary, and even going for that Ignite, so extra takedown pressure.
Yeah, it could be such an interesting matchup. This is not really something that I've seen before personally, so really interested to see how this shakes out as we get it underway here. Minions are crashing into each other, and our laning phase is just set to begin.
Yeah, so the basics of the Rengar Gangplank matchup: stay away from brushes, okay? Rengar jumps from the brushes, so he can actually leap onto you. That's one of the big things of his kit. So you want to stay away from the brushes. And topside, when the camera moves there, once they both end up there, there are actually 3 brushes now. There used to be just 2, but there's 3 now with the new alcoves being added. And that really helps the Rengar because he can jump from those brushes. So basically got to stay away from the top side of the lane, and GP will just try and sit back and farm. Luckily, GP does have a lot of tools to do that, but if he does walk too far forward, the Rengar can definitely jump on him. And with the Ignite, he doesn't really need you know, too many rotations of spells to find a takedown on that GP. So hopefully the GP can, you know, stay safe, farm up, but certainly a tough matchup in the top side here as we get a quick pause.
Yeah, and it's such a passive style of playing as well, right? Just trying to work under your tower and just get as much CS and gold as you can. It can be very difficult to affect the game when you're going for that style, but what you're hoping for, right, is that the game goes as long as it possibly can and you can build towards that late game stage.
Yeah, we'll see if they can sort of stall out here. The good news is Bob Jones, they're not like relying entirely on scaling. So what they've done with their compositions, they have one big scaler on the top side on the GP, who's pretty good off one item, but really comes into his own at level 13 with several items. That's really where he wants to be here. So he's got 12 levels to go before he's there.
Yeah.
But Bob Jones, they've got quite a lot of aggression early on the rest of the map here. Echo, a pretty good early to mid-game jungler. Not as good as some, but certainly good in the early game. And then the Lissandra and then Jhin, they can scale decently, you know, especially the Jhin, but really they are more early game focused champions, especially the Lissandra, early to mid game. Really, they want that ultimate is big for them. So they want to make something happen on the map for sure. So it looks like they're going to try and play heavy into that 4-man setup. try and find fights that way and just let the GP wait for a while here and you know, scale up. But the rest of the team is definitely going to be aggressive, trying to find fights early here, especially in the bot side. I think there's definitely, if they do catch Yezreal, potential for some things to go down there here. As we find our first trade in the top side, that Rengar just going to be jumping from that brush the entire time. You can also see on his bar, underneath his health bar there, he's got a resource there. He gets an extra empowered ability here, as we might find already our first takedown.
Yes, and a smart flash away there from the GP again, trying to avoid that early aggression. Doesn't want to concede the first takedown to the other team, using that flash to get away.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate already level 1 down, but you need to be very careful there. Didn't respect it. I'm going to miss you, bud. Just block too far up, and when you do that against a Rengar, well, he's going to deal a lot of damage. Ignite already down, but that cooldown is significantly shorter than Flash, so it's definitely worth in that trade. And now things are going to be tough for the GP. The Wave's actually in a really good spot right now for the GP because it's sitting directly in front of his turret, so he can be very, very safe. The Rengar has a tough time getting onto him because he just doesn't have the range to get there, but Echo coming up for a gank, it looks like perhaps, as Rengar is very far up the lane here. Dallas putting down the parallel convergence here, not going to find the stun. But they do find a lot of damage here onto the Rengar, flashing away and then using that empowered W there. Gives a bit of burst of movement speed and that healing. So good job there by the Rengar, but down flash.
Yes, but now they finally traded out those flashes in the top lane, again, affecting those cooldowns so early. Nice support from the jungle Echo there, trying to relieve the pressure from the top side.
Yeah, sometimes ganking a losing lane can be bad, but because the state of the lane in there, the Rengar really didn't have a great way to find a 2v2. He was far away from, or 2v1 rather, he was far away from the brush, and he also was down his Ignite. So finding the takedown onto Echo before he was able to do enough damage to him was really quite tough. So nicely done to gank that losing lane. Typically not what you want to do, but because of the situation there, good read from the Echo. Talos comes up big, helps his teammate quite a lot here. That CS lead that was existing now going to swing back over the GP and maybe even things up there.
Yes, again, we're looking towards maybe the bot side a little bit here. Some action going on, but nobody really being too aggressive in this bot lane. As you mentioned, I was kind of expecting to see this Nautilus go for some more of those dredge lines, try and pull those champions in, get a pick early.
Well, the whole reason they didn't go aggressive there is because they didn't know where the Pantheon was initially. They knew their jungler's topside and say, well, if the jungler comes, then we'll be outnumbered here and the fight won't go our way. So we can't really be too aggressive right now because we don't know where the jungler is. We're not sure. And if he's here, then we're going to get, you know, just destroyed. So we got to be very careful of that. They actually played very smartly there, not going aggressive because they knew where their jungler was and didn't know where the enemy jungler was. Good read on the map. Because sometimes your bot lane get a little over aggressive, and while you're up topside as the jungler, you're trying to help out your top lane, and your bot lane falls behind because of it.
See, that's my favorite way to play the top lane. It's just to always engage all the time, 24/7. But it's probably not the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, well, if you want to do that, play Darius and just hope that you're not against a Teemo or a ranged champion or something. If you want to play aggressive like that, that's the best advice I have for you here. But mid lane going pretty even right now here. Both mages have a lot of damage here. Lissandra wants to get a bit closer to the enemy here and engage. She's got a lot of crowd control, whereas Syndra has some crowd control, but really she's just all about damage.
Yeah, and that's such an intriguing one in mid as well because, again, talking about that map awareness, right? Trying to be aware of those junglers coming across the path and seeing if you have an opportunity to help out your laners or get help from that jungle.
Well, here we might find another play topside. Very low on mana. GP needs mana to use his abilities here. He's trying to run away, but first blood going to be found there by the Rengar. And now gank in mid lane. The stun going to be found, but he's going to get away with the claw. Nicely done there by Lissandra. Offensively able to survive. They were trying to stun him. Basically, the way that ability works for Lissandra is whenever that claw goes backwards or forwards or wherever direction, she can actually recast the ability to basically take the claw and teleport there. But if she's stunned during the duration of it, she can't actually teleport. So what you want to do is stun her while that claw is out, so that way she can't actually get away. But that time, they didn't buffer quite right, and the stun didn't interrupt that ability. So nicely done to get away there. Even holds on to the flash.
And again, we're jumping back to that top lane matchup as well, talking about the scaling from Gangplank.
Here comes a gank from Talos here. No mana here for Lissandra to help out. Flash forward, and it's going to be found. And that's a great ultimate there. I mean, presses R, finds the kill. Great after the TP. Nicely done by the Syndra there. Lissandra had basically no mana and basically no health to help out on the gank. Talos trying to make something happen, but in the end just sends his teammate to his doom. We'll be able to collect this wave, but a nice play in the mid lane there. The CS lead going to continue to grow, and now also the takedown. Great start for Lissandra.
Yes, and it's a quick 2 takedown advantage for the red side here as well. Just jumping out early and finding the picks where they can.
Very, very good start here. Now the Rengar is strong as well, so the soul lanes have gone fantastically for Thompson. The bot lane sitting even is great for them as well, because the Ezreal one of those champions that he's not like a scaler in terms of like you want to go to really, really late game, but he does want to play a bit more passive, especially after first back. He can sort of just sit there and poke. He's not great at all ins. He wants to poke, and he wants to get to his first 2 items. Ezreal is one of those champions that spikes really hard off item timing. What we mean by that is simply that when you get an item, there's basically a large increase in power when you complete that. And Ezreal is one of those champions that, because he builds the tier items, which you want to stack by using abilities, you basically get more out of them while you stack them. So what you want to do is go back early, get a tier, as well as maybe some other items here to help out, and then just use those to stack that up, sit in lane, farm up, and then when you get those 2 items point, which is usually around the 15 to 20 minute mark, depending how quick you get that, you become incredibly strong, more so than basically any other champion of the game, specifically during that time.
And I like that nice little play from the Galio there, the support. Walking up through the river, trying to find vision, maybe trying to help his mid laner while his AD carry channels back.
It's very nice there for sure by the Galley. That's what you want to do as a support. Protect your AD carry. Sacrifice everything to get them ahead. That's your goal basically here. Interesting buy first by the Ezreal. You're actually not going for the tier early on. Going to go for the CDR boots, the Ionian Boots of Lucidity, and also a longsword. So kind of interesting buy as Talus topside once again looking for this Rengar who's making life very, very difficult for I'm a Miss You Bud. But the Rengar has such control over this lane that it's kind of hard to even find again because the wards are there, and those wards just give vision, so they know, he knows when the enemy is coming up.
Yeah, and vision is such an important element of the game as well. Having an understanding of where your opponents are at all times, because normally you can't see, but when you place those wards, you get the vision where you can, and you can try to make effective and informed decisions based on your vision.
Exactly. Keeping track of the enemy is so, so crucial, especially in the early game. Keeping track of the enemy jungler so you know when you can go aggressive, when you can't here. We have an Ocean Drake early on. Already a ward on it for Thompson, so that they know what's going on there. Ocean Drakes are pretty good early on. They give you basically health back over time, which means that, like, if, say you take damage in lane, well, you just heal it up more. So it's a lot harder to take good trades against them because they essentially have more health to work with. So it'd be big to pick that up early on for both sides, but Thompson, it seems like they have priority on this dragon as they have a pushing bot lane and a pushing mid lane here. And so they might just go ahead and grab that early on.
Yes, a little bit of a roam here. Again, trying to figure out if they have the chance to go for this Drake. As you mentioned, so much benefit early on by picking up these Drakes. Let's talk a little about the objectives as well, because we have a Rift Herald up and we have a Drake up.
Hold on, we're going to fight first. Big stun here onto the Syndra. She can't escape. The follow-up stun from Talus as well. Going to find the takedown here as now the Pantheon trying to run away, but the Curtain Call going to find it. Drizzle Cash going to get the takedown onto the enemy jungler here. And another one. I'm a Miss You Bud, though, get credit for that on Sheep, thanks to the Cannon Barrage ultimate all the way from top lane. But he TP'd down with that, managed to join the fight, and they're going to get the dragon here. Bob Jones commit a lot for this dragon, but they get several takedowns and the dragon, which we talked about earlier here, the gold and the buff of that dragon.
Yeah, such a quick jump onto that fight as well. Knowing when to go in, they saw their chance and they took it, picking up 3 quick takedowns right there around the dragon and taking a very strong step back into this game. So
Rengar is going to get some damage onto the top lane turret, taking out the plates. When you see those little notches in the turrets, when you take those down, you get gold, just like the GP did there. So the Rengar got a bunch of gold off that, but the GP also got the gold back in mid lane here. And Lissandra's now going to be sent up top lane to deal with the Rengar. She's going to have a little bit of a better matchup into him at the moment, because she has that Keystone Aftershock, which you can see below her summoner spells here, but it looks like she's going to try and interrupt. She's back here. Going to find the root with the Empowered W to stop that. And cleanse that, essentially. So basically, his Empowered W cleanses things. So whenever you CC'd or suppressed or whatever it is, you can basically get rid of that by using your Empowered W here. As he's going to find the root. That's the Empowered E. That's what you get to your root. And your Empowering Q just essentially does more damage. So that's, when you see the 4 stacks on his bar there, that's what it is. Flashing in, he's going to get it! Oh my goodness, great play by the Rengar with Uke with the takedown.
So smart there as well to pick out the timing. Again, the disrespect almost on the top side there, just walking up, trying to find that fight. But Rengar able to take it down twice.
Well, and one of the big things for Rengar as well is he wants to get takedowns on to all the members of the enemy team. His passive Bone Tooth Necklace gives him extra AD for each unique takedown he has on the enemies. So he's actually getting a lot of AD. The first takedown gives you 1%, I believe. The next one gives you 5. And then the 5th one, once you get that one, gives you 25. So it's a huge, huge buff if you're able to get all of them here. But getting 2 this early on, nicely done by the Rengar. He's going to be a real tough champion to deal with, and maybe he can put a lot of pressure on the backline because he's so strong at deleting the squishy characters.
And again, we just saw that advantage coming through. Taking down the first turret is that Rengar on the top side. Now the adjustments, of course, have to come out. There's so much pressure from Thompson on that top lane now, trying to snowball it and carry them through this game.
Yeah, and the Essence Reaver picked up, wow, a really interesting buy here. You'll sometimes see this on top lane Rengar. Essence Reaver is actually an item that gives you mana back when you auto and gives you cooldown reduction. Rengar's a really big fan of cooldown reduction, but he actually doesn't have mana. That's not part of his kit. So it's a little bit of waste in terms of that. But the CDR is really, really big, and that can be incredibly powerful, getting that 20% CDR on just one item. Tons of AD off it, as well as that crit chance. So Rengar, he's got a lot of damage, but he will fall really, really quickly if you do, you know, strike back at him.
Again, we'll have to see if Bob Jones can punish the Rengar, perhaps for that missed opportunity in that item set. But yeah, a little bit of a reset here from everyone, trying to figure out where the next challenge is going to be.
We have Rift Herald on the top side, but neither team really wants to go for that just yet. Looks like they're waiting for Rengar maybe to shove in the wave and try and take that Rift Herald. And 2 minutes on the Dragon. So the only neutral objective is the Rift Herald, and neither team is particularly good at sitting at a turret and sieging it. So when we say sieging, it just means sitting there and trying to damage the turret while your minion wave pushes in. That's really all it is. Just sitting there damaging it with your auto attacks, and sometimes champions have abilities that can also damage turrets, but that is a little unique to some of the champions here. So overall, Bob Jones doing a good job so far, but this Rengar could be very, very scary, as well as the Syndra is doing quite well, but misses the scatter of the week there. So a missed opportunity, but Thompson in a good spot with their top laner, but need to leverage him certainly to grow their advantage.
Yeah, and even, again, if you just look at the bottom of your screen there, the CS difference in some of these lanes is starting to grow here. Again, we mentioned the Rengar and how strong, but even the mid lane as well, almost a 20 gold CS difference.
That's big for sure. Thompson's been very good about lasting here. They're down in bot lane, but everywhere else doing quite good. Interesting thing to note, Rengar is a champion that really likes brush on the map. You can see him, he gets extra leaps from those brushes. But because of the new dragons, the terrain actually changes. So brushes will be added, taken away, depending on the dragon here. And the only dragons we can get to change molds, we get a fight in the jungle. Already a stun found here onto Lissandra, but he's able to tank it up for now. Going to self-ult the heal here, as he get a lot of damage coming through. Here comes the GP, going to miss his barrels, but finds the Q, the parlay to get that one. As only the Rengar left, he's going to get one here onto the GP, but he will soon fall. A big fight in the top lane for Bob Jones, but down the bot lane. A flash away from the Jhin, a root now. Building be thrown on Yezreal here. Now the Thana's actually trying to kite back here. The ultimate going to be used here defensively by that Galio. The heal's going to get him out of range of the curtain call here. Trying to run away is the Jhin, but now just one more auto will do it. Dark Frog going to find the takedown onto Drizzle. Cash here as now just the support left. The Nautilus trying to survive, but a shift forward by Dark Frog. The Arcane shift, and now there's no way he can get away. And the Galio somehow survives through all of that. An amazing 2v2 for Thompson, although they lose the top side.
Wow, that was really fast. Such quick dynamic action across both sides of the map there. Ezreal really coming through on that one, though. Getting both takedowns, now hopefully trying to build that advantage bot lane. Again, we've seen the top side do well for Thompson, but they lost that one there. They traded out with the bottom side. Could really go either way.
And now we have the Dragon up here. And to make my point again about the Dragons here, the Cloud and the Ocean Drakes will not change the terrain. They won't spawn again here. But potentially the Mount or the Infernal could. We'll see what spawns next. The Infernal is going to spawn, which is kind of interesting because the Infernal changes the map in a way where there's less brush. There's a lot less things obscuring your vision, and the brush is one of those. There's also a lot less terrain that's kind of being knocked down here. So the Rengar, this is actually really bad for him because all of a sudden he's a much weaker champion because he just doesn't have the brush to try and leap from. So if you go into the enemy jungle, you can see right now there's a lot of brush that wasn't there before. There's also walls that are gone here. So the blue buff is more exposed, and all that brush on the map that he's hoping for just isn't there anymore. So actually really bad RNG for the Rengar here. He's a lot weaker now, which is kind of unfortunate.
And especially, again, the importance of the Drakes overall in this meta. Trying to pick up as many as you can because eventually you'll work towards getting the Elder Drake.
Yeah, the Elder Drake basically gets buffs those initial dragons, so the basic dragons that you've taken here, so you get a gank in the mid lane here. A self-ult to slow. Maybe he was trying to click the Syndra, I'm not sure. As I Miss You Bud comes in, Talus as well, they're going to find it, and the Unleashed Power not able to trade eco back onto offensively here. 7-6 in the total score now, and the gold about dead even, only a couple hundred separating these guys. The Rengar is still very strong, but that shutdown goal is huge, and the Trivar's already complete for the GP. Still to cash in that coal, which he has an inventory, which gives you extra gold, which complete those stacks here. As Rengar coming in, looking for a play here, taking a bit of damage here, trying to run away. Gonna use the ult defensively. That's a very bad sign if Rengar's ulting defensively. You want to use that offensively. He obscures. Right now you can see he's a little bit faded. That's because he's basically being obscured in terms of vision right now. And he also gets a free jump. If he's not in a brush, he still gets to jump onto someone. That's what this ultimate does. You channel it, you get to jump onto someone, you also get some extra damage, and you get obscured like that. It's kind of a camouflage to fit the champion.
Yes, and again, as we jump back over to the bot side here, really even in terms of gold. You can look dead even right now. It'd be interesting to see who can sort of leverage that and try and build a lead to get this game, because right now it's shaping up pretty even. I don't see a clear-cut advantage for either side.
No, neither side really does. The big thing right now is the Ezreal getting onto this Triforce. He's actually skipped the tier to try and get on Triforce earlier, which is a really interesting idea, which most people don't go for because Ezreal is so mana hungry that he runs out of mana quite a lot here. But because of the new runes, you actually do have a lot of ways to restore that mana. I believe he took a lot of sorcery things in the secondary tree to try and get mana back. So probably like mana flow band and maybe a few other things to try and like keep his mana up. Triforce also gives a little bit of mana, but it's really not enough. So he's going to be struggling in terms of that, but the Triforce, getting that earlier on gives you so much damage here. The GP's also got Triforce on the other side here, so those are some big spikes for those guys. But GP's a bit ahead right now because of his accelerated gold generation, because of his kit. His parlay gives you extra gold when you last hit a minion, and he's also got that call inventory, which is helping a little bit here. So the GP's actually accelerated plus those takedowns. So the Ezreal's pretty strong right now, but not going to be as strong at like 25 minutes because he didn't go for that tier item.
Right, and again, we're talking about the CS difference as well. The Ezreal compared to the Jhin, almost 30 CS behind. So it can be challenging to get that item set going early when we don't have the gold to support it.
Certainly, the Ezreal's doing decent, but yeah, that CS lead is pretty big. 30 CS is big at 17 minutes. I mean, it's big at any part of the game because it's essentially 2 takedowns worth of gold, depending on the minions that make that up. But usually, it's essentially 2 takedowns. So that's a big difference here. And despite that 1 takedown lead that the Ezreal has, it's really not made up for here. So the Jhin is actually ahead in gold a little bit there, assumedly, unless we miscalculated with maybe some of the turret gold going down. But I don't think it's too much of a difference there. So definitely concerning here that the Ezreal is falling behind, has gone for this Triforce. They can maybe find a fight in the next couple minutes where the Ezreal is incredibly strong because of this different build path. But if they wait, the Jhin will just outscale the Ezreal and be so much stronger in the coming minutes. And you combine that with a GP who's going to outscale, that's scary. The Rengar also went squishy, so unless he just deletes someone early on, he really won't be good in an extended fight.
And again, we haven't really seen too much engagement now. Game sort of slowing down a little bit, each team being careful and calculated with where they're setting up on the map, trying to establish a point of contact and get into that team fight.
Certainly. And we're kind of in the, what some people like to call a lull state, where there's nothing on the map that either team can take, because if they commit to it, it could end disastrously. So both teams are just trying to sit and farm and maybe damage turrets if they can, but now a play being made on the bot side, they're trying to break this. As Rengar going in, going to get the flash away, but now a TP coming in, this Rengar's going to get punished, going to go down for sure here. Can't find the takedown. Now on the other side here, all 5 members from Bob Jones here. They're going to find the CC on the Ezreal. The curtain call, not going to get it. In fact, the GP will get the last hit. So his 4th of the game. Nicely done there. A big shutdown as well. The Ezreal had a decent amount of gold because of those takedowns. They get shut down. It's more gold over to the Gangplank. Turret's going to drop here. Nothing going to be ganged back by the Syndra in the mid lane here. A huge play for Bob Jones.
Yes, really nicely executed from them, and such a huge element of it as well, as you mentioned, picking up the bounty on the Ezreal. An extra 150 gold coming in can really help them snowball. And with the Drake coming up, I would imagine that's the next target.
And the Infernal Drake is incredibly good for Jhin. It gives you percent AD here. We might see a fight on this dragon. We'll see. The Pantheon is actually down a level, so 2 levels actually. So his smite's going to be basically do less damage, which means stealing is a lot harder. But the dragon will go over without a fight. Thompson back off here, probably the correct decision. But Infernal's incredibly good for Jhin. He's a unique champion, in fact, that his passive, instead of when you buy like an attack speed item like the dagger that's currently in inventory, you actually don't get attack speed. It actually converts it all into AD. So you'll get crazy huge AD numbers, but because of the way his kit works with the 4-shot rotation, you actually like attack at the same speed basically throughout the game. You only get attack speed per level. So you do a lot of damage per auto, but not a lot of damage. You don't get a lot of autos off. So it's kind of interesting. But basically what it does is that you get a really large amount of AD, where some AD carries would only have like 200 AD at like 20 minutes or whatever it is. It all depends on the items they're building. He's going to have like 400, 500. So that the way percentages work, obviously, is going to give you a lot more AD off than Infernal Dragon. So Jhin is incredibly good at that. GP also amazing when he gets that AD. That Infernal Dragon really big this game.
It was the Pantheon again, trying to perhaps poke Bob Jones into something they might not want to take early here, but both teams now setting up in the mid lane, trying to see if they can get a push either way.
And like we talked about with the Rengar too, he's really good at stacking AD. So him getting that Infernal Drake would have been big, but Thompson, get it denied from them, and Bob Jones get it, who are even better at using it here. So kind of unfortunate, the Rengar, because he didn't build he didn't build any health, didn't build any tankiness, and he also didn't build items that are particularly good at one-shotting people. He built Essence Reaper and Triforce, which are really good items if you can have a fight that lasts like a medium amount of time. But a long fight, you just don't have the health to survive for it long enough. And a short fight, you don't have the burst damage to really delete a target immediately. So the Jhin, I saw that last fight, had to use Flash, but he also didn't get, just one shot by one ability, which sometimes happens with Rengar ahead.
Yeah, and I saw an interesting thing coming out from Bob Jones there as well on the bot side, trying to force that wave into the tower. It draws one of the members of Thompson. They have to go and deal with that tower pressure. They just don't want to surrender that pressure with no contest.
Certainly they do not. That is the big thing now in the mid game is you got to worry about these minions because the minions alone can actually take towers. You don't even need a champion there sometimes if the wave is big enough. So you got to be very careful about the minion waves. Otherwise, someone could TP in and get something off the back of a play. Or having a minion wave after you win a fight is actually so much better than not because you can get, if you win a fight and there's no minion wave, you can actually take the towers, right? But if you have the minion wave there already, you win the fight, then go to there. The minion wave is there already. You save a lot of time while the enemy team is still respawning. You're able to get more turrets or more objectives than you normally would be able to. As a big play in the mid lane here, but not enough burst damage from the Syndra. Your Jot Barrage not going to find either. The Jhin will survive. The Unleashed Power not enough for the Syndra.
I'm looking for Thompson here. I think they're going to try and push this mid
Well, here comes an engage here by Bob Jones to counter this push by Thompson here. Curtain Call going to go up. And now offensively in the front line, going to find a stun onto the Pantheon. Taunt going to come through from Sheep. Going to buy a little bit of room. He's going to flash in the last shot from the Curtain Call, though. Goes down to offensively here. Yuki in the back line, not going to find anything just yet. In fact, he gets rooted, and now he's going to get shut down for sure. Talos with that one here. 2 for 1 so far. Only the Nautilus falling on Bob Jones' side. But a big win, and the rest of the members from Thompson very low. Might be able to save this tower, but it's a nice win from Bob Jones' side. But Thompson not going to lose too much off the back of it.
Yeah, it was really nice counterplay there from Bob Jones. I saw Thompson setting up that push in the mid, and they didn't allow any push whatsoever, came right back in, pick up that 2 for 1.
Well, here comes the ult
here comes more.
Pantheon. Yeah, I don't think he really wanted to be there. He went to the back line and just like, hey, no, I'm not going to go over there. A little bit too dangerous for him here. Going to clear out a ward, but we'll be kind of wasting ult. The ultimate from Pantheon big because it can get you across the map quite far and you can outnumber people by doing that. But it is a long cooldown, so kind of unfortunate they didn't really get much off that. Find a takedown or really nothing. So a bit unfortunate there for the Pantheon. He's struggling quite a bit this game. You can see how far ahead the Echo is compared to him. He's got a lot more takedowns, a lot more gold. In fact, he's up a whole level, which in the jungle is quite big because of that smite damage on objectives here, especially when it's level 10 to level 11 because you get that extra point in the ultimate here.
Yeah, and the jungle can have such an impact across the entire map. Again, the way that role constantly moves around the map, applying so much damage and pressure where they can. Jungle difference, right?
Better jungle always wins.
Of
That's
course.
what you got to take away from this one. Every single game. And it looks like, well, I hope Ezreal's building what I hope Ezreal is not building what I think he's building, because I think what he's doing is he's going to build Frozen Gauntlet, which you don't want to build because Triforce and Frozen Gauntlet have unique passives. Which means that they don't stack together. So if you build those items, the passives they give you, which give extra damage, don't actually stack and give you extra damage because, for balance purposes, you don't want 2 items giving the same effect and just making them really, really OP. So you don't want to build Iceborne Gauntlet and Frozen Gauntlet, Iceborne Gauntlet, same thing in the League of Legends community. You don't want to build that item together with Triforce because the passives won't stack and you'll essentially lose a lot of gold.
Well, we'll see if that becomes the case rise. We're getting a big skirmish here in front of the Drake.
Yep, here we go. Ult from the Galliot interrupted the Curtain Call, doing massive damage here. The Dragon on 1,000 health, no one able to get that quite low to take it now. And offensively going to stay alive, but will fall in the end to conceded here. As Jhin coming in now looking for the autos here. Rengar going to get hooked over the dredge line of the Nautilus. Big damage there with the 4 shot from Drizzle Crash, going to find it. 2-on-2 now here with Talos and the AD carry here for Bob Jones. Drizzle Crash versus Dark, Prod, and conceded. The Dragon looks like it might go over here. Talos can't get in the pit, and the Dragon will go over. A big Infernal pickup here for the side of Thompson. Denying the Infernal from Jhin is so huge to deny his skill later on in the game, as well as the GP. A big pickup for them. A messy team fight, but I think really positive.
Right, in the end, you feel like the trade is worth it, picking up that Drake there. Bit back and forth in the team fight, as you mentioned, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you need those objectives to try and take this game to the finish line. Thompson doing well there to pick up the Drake.
Very, very important for sure to get that. Like I said, the Rengar uses 80 really, really well. And, stacking that passive amazing and, added Infernal on top of that gives you crazy, crazy amounts of AD here. Rengar's looking for that Triforce, hasn't quite completed it. He only needs another 100 or 2 more gold to grab it, but he really needs that in the near future because he's been sitting on these parts for a long time. Just, his combat effectiveness has been lowered so much because he's just waiting on that item completion. The Rengar's had a really tough time getting in this fight. The Nautilus has shut him down quite a lot, and so has the Sandra with that hard CC. He just can't get onto the backline threats he wants to, unfortunately. But the Jhin continue to maintain that CS lead here. Really big there, but the solo lanes from Thompson still doing a good job in the CS department here, as we might get a collapse on the top side, but Rengar smartly backs off.
Yeah, they might have had a level of awareness there to see that that play was coming. Doing well to back off of it, as now both teams sort of eyeing up the Baron. That is the next, item on the list to do here, but it will be contested no matter which team goes for it.
Sure. The Infernal, very, very big for sure for both sides. As we get Pantheon going to ult into the side lane, but never really got onto the GP there, so it won't result in a pick off here. And Banshee's Veil can be procced here. They find the route onto the Syndra. That's it. No chance for her.
1v4 is not ideal, to say the least.
No, this might get an opening to go to the Baron here as well. Jhin, not one of the best Baron taking 80 carries here. A little bit of indecision here from Bob Jones. Looks like they're now going over to the Baron here. Getting that pick allows them to go to Baron here because they'll have an advantage if the fight does break out into 5v4. But again, they don't do a ton of damage to Baron with this Jhin because his kit not very good at dishing out that consistent damage over a long period of time here, as Talon again has a level advantage with the Smite.
Yes, and smart from Thompson here as well. They know that they're going towards the Baron, so they're just trying to draw them off a little, see if they can perhaps get a pick, but trying to slow down that take on the Baron.
The Syndra has the TP, so they have to respect that. So Bob Jones is going to back off. They're taking a bit too much damage. As now looking to chase this Rengar. Fencelead has no flash to get on him, so the Rengar will get away here. Really nice defensive play by Thompson there. If they didn't do that damage, try and interrupt that Baron, would have certainly gone over here. And nicely done. They give up a pick, but they don't give up the Baron, which is really the important thing.
Again, objective is so important in this meta because, again, talk to you a little bit about the buffs that you get with Baron as well, because they're very different from the Drake.
So the Baron, what it does is when you have to be the one to last hit it, right? That's why we talk about steals, is if you are the one to last hit, you essentially get the buff for all the members that are alive currently. Lasts for a couple minutes, and basically what it does is it gives you a little bit extra ADP, and then it also buffs the minions, which is the big thing. Buffing the minions is huge because they essentially take more damage and deal more damage, and it makes it really hard to wave clear because a lot of abilities are balanced around, stopping the base minions, right? They deal enough damage to stop the backline minions there, as you can see, almost one-shotting them there. But those minions, they take a lot more damage, so you can essentially just sit at a tower, have the minion wave tank the turret, and take down turrets much, much easier, and obviously the minions themselves are doing more damage to the turret. So it basically makes pushing in much, much easier. And a team that's not very adept at sieging from a long way away, just sitting in front of the turret and hitting it with Baron, can sort of have that weakness alleviated by the fact that they have the Baron up. It basically makes them artificially good at sieging. It also means that if you have a split pusher like this GP in the side lane, which he may want to do now, especially if they get the Baron, he can pressure two lanes and have two really, really strong minion waves coming in. It's incredibly hard because usually most teams only have one particularly good champion at wave clear.
As again, we are just approaching the 30-minute mark in this game. Feels really even. Obviously the KDA advantage going in the favor of Bob Jones, but relatively even in gold. Some of the Drakes going in favor of Thompson, but still a path to victory for both teams.
Both teams can certainly win from here. Again, some of that gold is wasted, so there's a little bit more of a gold lead for Bob Jones because, like I said, this Iceborne Gauntlet has been bought for the Ezreal, so he's actually wasting a lot of gold because the passives don't match up, or they do match up rather, and that's why they don't work together. So that's kind of unfortunate for them here. But they have an incredibly strong Rengar with 40% CDR, which means his ultimate and his base ability is going to be really, come back up really, really quickly here. So he's actually still very powerful. The GP is getting very strong as well, but I think the Rengar might still win the 1v1 there, which is big. So without Baron, split pushing isn't really on the menu for the GP just yet, unless he has a particularly good matchup if the Syndra comes to stop him. But now we're definitely going to have a fight around the Drake. I don't know who's going to win, but we're going to have a fight for sure.
Yes, absolutely. You can see that Drake just coming into the pit right there, and looks like Bob Jones setting up for a contest. Neither team really pushing for it right now, but you feel like it's coming soon.
Well, big thing. Both mid laners have stopwatch, or rather Zony's Hourglass here, so they can go into that stasis, which is big to dodge important damages here. The AD carries don't have that, so that'll be important to note that, so that they are under a bit more threat. As the Dragon getting started up here, Talos is over the wall. Rift Scuttle going to go over. That gives vision in the river. That's important here, as well as movement speed. Oh no, they found the jungler. Talos already down, couldn't even ult here. Now the engage coming through from Thompson, looking for more here, offensively trying to kite away. Big return damage though, maybe Bob Jones' Talos fight. Here comes the Jhin charging forward. 4-shot finds the takedown onto the enemy support. Drizzle Crash is doing so much damage here. Gonna find the root here in the zone. He's just too late. It looks like a one-team fight for Bob Jones. Despite getting their jungler picked off at the start, massive damage as Thompson files through that choke point. Looks like they're going for Baron, which is an aggressive call, but if they get it, big payoff.
Oh my word, what a response from them initially. Again, you lose your jungler to that pick, but the damage that comes out, able to pick off almost all of Thompson there. Only one player left on the Rift. Baron is an aggressive play. We'll see if they can pull it off in time.
Yeah, they do not have great damage on this. GP, helps a little bit here because the Triforce procs are quite good. But it looks like Conceited is not going to be able to get there in time. He has the ultimate, but he doesn't know what's actually happening at the moment, it seems. And there's no ward in the inventory. There's no Farsight alteration, but TP going to come in here for the side of Bob Jones, try and finish off this Baron here. Looks like they'll get it, and Conceited not here to try and steal it. So Conceited Goon will not even attempt it as he had no idea what was going on. Baron over to Bob Jones, big pickup.
And you notice the other buff from the Baron as well. Look at how fast those recalls come in. You can immediately take the objective, get back in your base, reset your health and mana, and go contest the Drake.
And past 20 minutes, you get that home guard to get more speed coming out of the base, which is big to get back onto the map here. Looks like Infernal can be started up here by Thompson, so they're going to trade the Infernal for this Baron, which could be big later on in the game here. Current Call going to come through, and Thompson will secure the Dragon, so that's really big for them. They need another one for the Soul, but getting that second Infernal really big for sure, and now a fourth one coming up here. Bob Jones would love that, but we got to wait 5 minutes for that to take it. So now we're going to focus on the Baron here, which is only going to last a couple minutes. We'll see how much they can get off it, but certainly the opportunity to open up the base here, break open inhibitor, get those super minions coming down.
And as you mentioned, the difficulty with the Baron, though, is the ability to split push, right? You can see 4 of Bob Jones' champions pushing down that mid lane, building that pressure with Baron's minions, but the top and bottom side, you almost have to leave them to fend for themselves.
Yep, and with the GP in the silent, they're able to pressure 2 lanes here. The top side, the minions are still doing some work there, but they don't have the Baron buff. You actually have to have someone with the Baron buff on them next to the minions in order to give them the buff. So it's important that if you want to pressure lane, you have to have someone there to buff the minions. And Syndra is actually kind of interesting. We're pretty good against Baron Sages because she has an ability that can actually pick up the minions. So one of the strengths of Baron buff is that it gives extra range to the cannon minions, well, all the minions technically, but to the cannon minions especially. So they'll sit at really long distances away from the turret and just pelt it with autos. With their little cannon autos there, you can see the cannon minion coming down now as you get a TP in. Lots of damage coming through here from Thompson, but with this Baron, it looks like Bob Jones is going to force it down their throats and maybe try and take this, but Thompson looking for the engage.
Yeah, again.
Oh, Rengar going in the front line. He's going to try and run out here as they kite back. Big into the front line. Lissandra, so much damage here. The team trying to follow up, but so much time being bought here by the Pantheon. But now skills coming in here for Bob Jones as now Sheep is trying to run away, but Lissandra will get another one, a double takedown there for Bob Jones' mid laner here. And now with the Baron, all 5 members still left alive. It looks like they're going to open up the base.
It certainly seems that way. I think the big thing here is trying to get that inhibitor. You have all 5 players running straight down the mid lane. We'll see if they can crack open the whole base.
Well, they might just end here. We'll see if they want to go for that. A little bit risky here. A lot of damage being put through, but a good zoning is going to save the life of offensively here. And now the Syndra should fall, but here comes the Rengar going to find a shutdown here onto Lissandra. Youth, though, will fall before he can do much more than that. Oh, Lissandra will die to the burn here. Really unfortunate there, but still they have 3 members left and Baron buff. Maybe they can end the game here. GP's getting so low. Maybe he'll get that remove Scurry back up to heal here. Looks like, oh, nice. A big shift in here for Dark Rod. That's already 1 knockdown here onto the Echo. The GP should get away here. It looks like he will survive the turret damage. Conceited Goon, though. Oh, no. He may be able to chase him here. He's actually got some good out-of-combat movement speed. And now the support will go down. So an attempt at the end here. Bob Jones don't get it, but they got a lot. They got the base open here and almost only 1 Nexus Tower remaining.
Yeah, again, the aggressive play being to try to end the game there. They just didn't quite have the damage to pull it off. Credit Thompson, though, coming out and recognizing that, hey, we can come back and we can at least prevent the game from ending on us because we're doing everything in our power to not lose.
Well, the mid laner Conceited did a great job there, buying a lot of time and did so much damage to Lissandra. That was what was the key there. And then you came in, also found the finishing blow on 2 members, which was really important because if they left all 5 members left alive, they surely would have lost the follow-up fight there. But because there was only a couple left, Dark Rod could come in, clean up the fight, take down a couple people, and then as well, Conceited Goon just chased the GP down the lane. So a big play by everyone on the side of Thompson there to try and save the game here. They're significantly behind now, 4,000 gold, but the game's really not over from here. The longer the game goes on, the less gold leads matter. Just that's generally how math works. But because it's less of a percentage there. But this Infernal is going to be big here. Seeing who gets this one, because if Thompson get it, they can grab the Soul, and Infernal Soul is one of the best, I think the best Soul in the game. It gives you essentially a lot more damage in team fights. Every couple seconds you get more damage, and also like has a little explosion in the AoE. So if you can pick that up, that means even if you're worse at fighting generally, you can still win. So I think that this next fight around this Infernal is going to be incredibly huge, just like the last fight was, but we're going to have another big one here as you coming in with the ultimate looking for a play.
Yeah, and again, that Drake not quite up yet, so they're going to be smart, they're going to be patient, and wait until the Drake itself actually comes up before they start this engage. It feels like you have to get this one. Again, if you're Thompson, you're behind, you got to find the advantage where you can.
And really should be buying some Farsight alterations. They don't have any right now, so they can't check brushes without sending someone in there. As an engage going to come through from offensively, but a good Zoni is going to buy room here. Now both mid laners going golden. Flash away, big ultimate by the Gallery, knocking up several members, but the Jhin is untouched in the backline. Raining through the autos, just massive damage from the Jhin here, looking for more. Flash away to dodge the stun. Massive play there from the Jhin. Drizzle Crash, beautifully played in that team fight. The rest of the team coming up huge as well. Great engage from Lysandra, and now going down mid lane, they found 3 takedowns. It's basically a 4-on-2. Maybe they can end here, but Talos maybe going to fall here to Yuke. He's trying to back. He will fall down. Shut down here for the Rengar. They're trying to end here. They only have 1 super minion here at about a third health. They can maybe do it, though. The only 1 Nexus tower left, and then the Nexus here. Jhin looking to fire away the autos here. So much damage coming in. 1 more. As you saw, that opposite of the curtain call. A little BM there as you get 1 last out on the Nexus, and that's it. 38 minutes. Bob Jones take it.
Such a pivotal team fight at the end there. It was so important that Bob Jones came out ahead in that last team fight. Again, working around the Drake. They knew that Thompson was going to push that Drake to try and get to the Soul. They just waited. They bode their time, found the engage when they wanted it, got the advantage, ended the game. Well played to that.
Yeah, a little bit of mismanagement there. They definitely wanted to pick up a Farsight alteration to try and grab that vision from a long distance away. It was one of the big things you can do here. Unfortunately, they had to face check it. Didn't start off the fight great. Then Yuke went in, and then the counter gauge came in on the other side from the Lysandra. That was big to open up that fight. And then the Jhin just untouched the entire time. Beautiful flash away as well from the Scatter of the Week, which was huge because if he gets knocked down there, that fight probably still goes to the side of Bob Jones, but they don't have the damage afterwards to actually end the game.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to touch on as well is, we mentioned it before the start of this game, is that we talked about that specifically that top lane matchup where that GP, trying to scale all the way through the end of the game. They got a 40-minute game, and they managed to make it work to their advantage. What's the idea for Thompson in Game 2? How did they try and counter that style?
Well, they kind of did to a degree. They actually had the Rengar in lane really hurt the GP. He was struggling. Thanks to Talos coming in, helping out him in lane, that really made a difference for the GP getting back in that one. And then the problem was they didn't sort of make that advantage they had with the Rengar mean something later on. Every fight Rengar tried to take from then on, he just kind of got shut down, jumping in on the backline onto the Jhin or onto the Lysandra, whoever it was, right? The Nautilus was there. Then in came the Echo to stun him with the parallel convergence afterwards. He just kind of got shut down in the team fights. That was a big problem. So they had actually a good idea of taking the Rengar into the GP, but they never really had a way to take that advantage from the Rengar, make it into something bigger for the rest of the team.
Well, again, we will see in game number 2 if Thompson can come back. But, guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll be returning in just a moment with game number 2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.
I think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
Man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school.
After a long-fought battle for Game 1, we are finally ready for Game 2. Bob Jones High School is up 1-0 in the series so far versus Thompson High School. And are they going to take home 2 championship titles today? We're about to find out because we're on match point, and who better to bring you the action than Kios and Perino.
Welcome back, everyone. As Necra said, Bob Jones High School on match point here. They look great in game one. One of our longer games, though. Hard fought by both teams here. Almost 40 minutes, a great match here. You excited for game two?
Oh, absolutely. I cannot wait to see the adjustments that both teams make come game two here. So much of the mental side of League of Legends in a best of three is being willing and able to make adjustments where you think they're necessary.
Yeah, certainly a great game there. The Rengar off to a hot start, but kind of got shut down as the game went on there. And Bob Jones just consistent throughout. Talos helping out his top laner with that Rengar. And then we had some great team fights to close it out there. Never really got the Infernal Soul, but everyone was fighting over it.
Yeah, and a really strong performance from the Echo there as well. So I wonder if that'll be moved into the ban list in the jungle. But yeah, again, great performance from both teams, but ultimately Bob Jones came out ahead. They are on match point, as Necra mentioned earlier, looking to do the double today.
Yeah, already one title under the belts. Can they bring home two? We'll soon find out. But as you said, Echo may be on the ban table here. What adjustments are you thinking here? I'm thinking Echo would be good to ban away, that GP would be good to ban away, and maybe replace it with something else on the top side.
Certainly on the top side, yes. I think you do have to force that player off that champion. But I'm also looking at the bot side too. Maybe looking at the Jhin as well. I don't know if they want to tussle with that Jhin again, given how much damage he was able to pull off near the end of that game. It could be a huge deciding factor. But again, it's up to the players at the end. They have to be confident in their picks and their bans.
Well, certainly the bot side is very important. You talk about the Jhin here, but also supports. You got to factor in the supports. One of the champions that's been really good recently is Leona. She's been super, super powerful as a support champion, especially with an engage, a hard engage tool to help out the 80 carries. Their Jhin pretty good at all-ins if you can get them about half healthier. And Leona has a very powerful kit. Many different ways to crowd control opponents, stun them, root them. You name it, she can do it basically here. The Zenith Blade is her main way to get in here. It's her E ability, able to root the champion, and then she can follow up with more abilities here, like the Solar Flare ultimate, which stuns people in the center here and also slows those on the outside.
Yes, and Leona has seen an incredible rise just in general of her ban rate. I believe in the last game she was selected as one of the bans. I forget which team elected to do so. She's just so strong in this meta, as you mentioned, going through all of her abilities here. Just a really great all-around support champion.
Yeah, so you want to get that Zenith Blade in, as you saw there. Solar Flare to follow up, but also using that shield to grab a stun. And her W as well gives her a lot of tankiness. That's a big thing right now with a lot of the engaged supports. They have ways to tank up damage here. You can see she also does a little bit of damage at the end there. Nautilus also has that shield on his W. So a lot of the engaged supports right now that have risen in popularity, it's because they also have a way to absorb damage, tank that up, and also the just ridiculous amounts of CC here. Such a powerful engaged tool. Can be used defensively as well if you want to, kite back, use the Solar Flare defensively. Very, very powerful champion. But as we talked about earlier, the top lane's super important. Last time we saw Rengar, but another great lane bully is that Renekton, a very, very powerful champion here who can use a lot of different abilities here to either stun the opponent and lock them down, or he can use the slice and dice here to get a lot of mobility for himself.
Yeah, and that top lane matchup was so interesting last game. I wonder if they may pivot to something like a Renekton, or maybe even go something more in line with the meta here, and try and go with a ranged champion top. We've seen that rise in popularity as a strategy through this meta. I might be interested in seeing a ranged top laner.
Yeah, ranged top laners can be very good, especially against the Renekton if that is picked up, but the GP can also suffer. We saw it last game, so maybe instead of the ban, if you're banning away that GP, they'll go elect to say, we're going to get even bigger lane bully than that Rengar and try and go for a ranged top laner. That's always good here. Renekton incredibly powerful here. Renekton and Leona together can sometimes be incredibly powerful as well here. They share a couple skins together with a beach day available, but they also can, together in a team fight, just lock people down, especially those backline 80 carries and mid laners.
Yeah, and it may be something useful to, again, as you mentioned, to suppress the damage from those 80 carries. When you have champions that can absorb that damage and survive that first wave, they can come back and counter, find those takedowns and those eliminations.
Yeah, so the Renekton going to be a powerful pick in the top side here, but also you got to worry about what's going on the map, because one of the things that was definitely a really good start for the side of Thompson was that they got the Rengar ahead really early on, but they never really made that into a bigger advantage. They never really used him around the map. So definitely something you got to keep your eyes on is the junglers and whatever lane gets ahead. How do they rotate around the map? Because the map play in the mid game was a little bit better from Bob Jones, and that really helped them, get the advantage they needed in the mid game and start to come out, to a lead and eventually get that Baron and end the game. Well, it took a couple extra tries, but they eventually ended that game off that play.
Yes, absolutely. Finding control of the Baron is so important. When you make those late game pushes into the base, you get those buffs to those minions. So crucial in trying to end the game. But then on the flip side as well from Thompson, they got a bit unlucky almost with the Infernal Drake, as we mentioned. The Rengar got ahead, and he uses that brush to his advantage, but the Infernal Drake, changing the way the map is played, removing a lot of that brush.
Yeah, kind of unlucky, a little bit of
So
RNG-based thing. If that Rengar did have that brush, the game could have gone, especially if you had an Ocean Dragon. Could you imagine that with all the extra brush that would have? Would have been really tough for the Jhin and Lysandra to deal with that here. But I think my biggest concern in the future, though, is the jungle matchup. We saw how powerful the Echo was. The Pantheon, an interesting pick, can be very, very powerful in the early game. The ultimate's so powerful as well to find someone in the side lane, find a pick like that. But the Pantheon just never really panned out. The ganks never really worked out for him. I think that jungle matchup is definitely going to be a thing to watch in the upcoming game.
Yes, the jungler can have such an impact across all of the lanes, right? The way that they roam and the way that they move around the map. It's such a crucial role because you can help out any lane that's behind. You can snowball lanes that are ahead. When you really start to get going, jungle champions typically are very strong in team fights. So much advantage to having a really strong jungle.
The Echo, very, very powerful. The Pantheon never came up quite the same. And also, just falling down XP is so brutal now because there's no catch-up XP. There's really no way to come back if you fall behind in the jungle. Is certainly a very concerning thing, and just getting those takedown experiences as well just helps so much because the jungle is just kind of gets you levels early on, but later on in the game it just doesn't really scale the same way.
Well, you need that jungle tax, right? Come in with the gank, help out your laner, but then also take some of the CS and the minions as well for helping out because, as you mentioned, the way that the changes have been made to the jungle, you're not finding as much CS and as much EXP advantage in there. When you do make those plays into those lanes, you have to pick up the gold when you can see it.
Exactly. The jungle definitely needs some more of that, or just try and devote all his time to the lane. Sometimes you can go for that strategy. Well, last time the Echo was like, hey, I'm doing the damage, but sometimes you can also play a bit more towards that team-oriented style and scale up there. But it looks like Thompson maybe not as keen to play that kind of style because they went for the Ezreal, a little bit more of a passive AD carry. He was not really going to, hard carry, so to say, where he's just going to take all the damage burden for his team and just do everything himself. He's more about providing consistent damage and support as opposed to just being, the monster that some of the AD carries can be, when you just give them all the gold in the game here. So it looks like Thompson playing a little bit more of a balanced style, but that time didn't really work out, maybe not fitting the meta as well as they hoped.
One of the advantages, I think, though, of the AD carry role is that there's such a strong mix of champions that can be good almost at any time. There are so many different ways that you can go about playing that AD carry position. We mentioned it earlier, talking at the top of the broadcast about how even getting a Yasuo AD carry or a Pyke AD carry, if you really want to be adventurous, there are so many different routes you can take. The adjustment is there if you're willing to take the risk.
I would definitely like to see those guys in the bot lane. Hopefully we'll get that adaptation, but right now they're playing a bit more standard here. But after losing game one, or even winning game one, maybe you want to change it up for sure because that can sometimes be the recipe for success. Keep, if you're ahead, keep them on their toes, but if you're behind, try something new here because the Ezreal didn't really pan out the way that Thompson was hoping for, and Bob Jones are happy to see that again, I would imagine, the bot side.
Absolutely. Again, Bob Jones' laning phase in particular I thought was very strong overall. It was fairly even, and then once they were able to just hold on to it, right, and allow that late game to develop, they picked up the Baron, they were able to deny the Infernal Drakes when they got the chance. That's when they were able to go and end the game. I would imagine they would stick to a similar strategy. If it works once, why pivot away from it? If it keeps working, just pile it on.
So we'll see if there's an adaptation there. A lot of strong AD carries right now. We haven't even really seen the Misfortune recently. Everyone's banning it away, and some people just not opting to play it here because there are counters to it. But the Aphelios has been picked up recently. I wonder if that's maybe on some of the minds of the players here. He's only been out for so long, but I think a lot of AD carries now probably have enough time to sort of, learn him, get him ready. Maybe we'll see him pulled out in game two.
Aphelios can be such an interesting champion to learn and to watch because there are so many different elements to his kit. He's a very technically difficult champion, but when he's played well, he is absolutely unstoppable. I don't know the champion pool of all of the players in this match today. It's interesting to think about, but again, if I was one of those characters, boom or bust, right? Either you do amazing with him or it's really poor.
Yeah, and then in the mid lane, we saw the Lysandra-Syndra matchup. Both those guys did quite well. The mid laners had a really good game on both sides. But the Lysandra, a pick you don't get to see too often nowadays here. She's kind of fallen a little bit out of popularity. But that Aftershock Lysandra style, still very, very good. Those engages still incredibly powerful. And that was what really tipped the last team fight as well. The Lysandra getting that engage coming through there. That was huge. And then the Jhin just rained out, just rained down the autos, and that's what, cleaned up the team fight. But Lysandra was so key in so many instances. I wonder if you come back with a different style against her, because the Syndra did well, but maybe didn't match up exactly how they wanted to into Lysandra in the late game, because she had a really tough time absorbing the engage.
Yes, absolutely. And when you find those engages, another key element to those mid laners as well, they were both using the Zhonya's too, right? You go in, find the engage, and then if you need to, because they can be very susceptible to high amounts of damage, just hit that Zhonya's, make sure to go gold, and find a way out of the situation. We'll see if they stick with characters that go that, or that play that style.
Yeah, it was interesting because they also use them a little bit differently. The Lysandra obviously used the Zhonya's for the stasis, but used it a bit more aggressively, where she'd be diving into the back line to find that CC, and then the Syndra was the one who would use that defensively, so when she got dived on, it would make sure that she at least had some time to react and try and get away from it, or absorb key abilities. But she never really had an escape after that. When Flash was down, it felt like Syndra was just sitting there, just waiting to be taken down, because there was no way for her to get away here. And once she misses the scatter of the week, it's just like, well, it's just kind of all over her. So that was one of the things that was definitely hard, whereas the Ezreal had the Arcane Shift to get away. So that was one of the reasons that Syndra just felt tough to play in the late game. She's such a fine line as a champion, where it's like, oh, you need to get up there to threaten their back line, get the damage down, but also you need to stay safe from their offensive threats. And she really did a good job of that a lot of the time, but those few slip-ups meant that it was just, that fight's over because the Syndra's gone.
Yeah, you wonder if you might pivot to even an assassin there as well, working in the mid lane, trying to get into that back line and picking those spots to find the engage, but I'm not sure. The only way to find out is we will be having our draft board coming up very soon. I believe both teams are getting set, ready to go there. So much has been talked about, in terms of the game itself, but taking a step back, it's such a huge spot for Bob Jones here. Again, they took down that Rocket League title with that Rocket League roster earlier, but now on match point, they're looking to do the double. There's a lot of outside pressure as well for them to finish this off.
Certainly is. A bit tough to live up to. You're right. You're the one playing second. Your compatriots in the Rocket League series already won. A little bit of pressure on them for sure. We'll see if they can withstand it here in game number 2 coming up shortly with that draft. But they look good. I feel confident in them. The game went pretty long, but they looked like in control. They looked calm. So even that pressure that, we got to get a title because our friends did too, it doesn't seem like it's getting to them.
No, and it's worth mentioning that to get to this point, you have to beat so many good teams to get here. Again, this is the grand final for the Alabama High School Athletics Association for League of Legends. You have to work together as a team. You have to have trust and faith that the communication is there, that the ideas are there, and the matchups are still going to be working in your favor.
Well, speaking of matchups, we're going to hop into draft here in just a second. And adaptations, right? That's the word for game number 2. We got to figure out what these teams have done after game 1, what they think is best to ban away, or maybe they have a different matchup they want to play. Certainly here, Thompson High School going to be on that left side of your screen, the blue side. Bob Jones High School on the right side, the red side here. So Thompson will get the first pick, but their first ban going to be that Jarvan in the jungle.
Yeah, taking away a strong jungler, I'm wondering if that's just, sort of a meta ban or if that's a targeted ban. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a meta ban for sure, but obviously getting a read on the enemy jungler and what he wants to play here. And the Cassiopeia, another good meta champion, but offensively likes those mages for sure. He played Lysandra, but that Cassiopeia, another favorite of his, which he actually said it was his favorite in the player profile. So for sure, taking the one away is good. But double bans here for Bob Jones against the enemy mid laner here with that Cassiopeia and the Diana. So I like their attack. They're attacking the enemy mid laner here, but a lot of focus definitely in the mid lane. Already 3 bans out of the 5 towards that mid lane for both sides.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at Thompson's ban too, the Nautilus as well, targeting the support character, making sure to force something different out of Bob Jones in that bottom lane.
So in total, 4 mid lane bans when you factor in both sides here. All 3 for Bob Jones against the mid laner here. They do not want to give him his favorite champion for sure. He still has the Syndra, but as we talked about, that went okay, but not great. But we're gonna get that Aphelios we talked about. First pick Aphelios here for Thompson High School in the bot side here, but obviously very exploitable if you can get on top of him.
He certainly is, but I love the confidence, right, from Thompson here. They're facing match point. Okay, who do we take that we can really use to take over the game? Aphelios can be the answer when he's used well.
Yep. Oh, is that really a Master Yi? I'm wondering if this is a bug, because you don't get to see Master Yi too often here in the jungle, especially in a time when farming is not really what you want to do in the jungle. The Master Yi is so reliant on getting levels, getting gold for his items. He's very much a scaling jungler here, and I would assume he'd be there in the jungle. So if they really take this Master Yi, this is a big gamble by Thompson High School.
Again, the adjustments, right? Trying something different. It may not be meta, it may not be in line with the current set of the game, but if it's a character that he knows well, if it's a character that he's comfortable on, it's worth taking the risk because you have to change it up.
Well, he's against Talos again on the Echo, who is so good on that champion. We saw it last game here. Going to be Senna. Should be a bot lane Senna. I would assume 80 carry support maybe, but I would think this is an 80 carry Senna based on the rest of the composition. It seems to fit for Bob Jones here as the second rotation. Bob Jones, another 4th ban against the enemy mid laner here with a Syndra ban this time around. Caitlyn Morgana, so double bot lane bans for Thompson on the other side.
Yeah, interesting to go Caitlyn Morgana as well once you see the Aphelios take in there, right? Making sure to, take away some of the 80 carries that really work against Aphelios.
Yeah, and 5 mid lane bans for Bob Jones. They very clearly want to shut down the enemy mid laner here, offensively trying to get a good matchup here. He's going with the Lysandra, not the Syndra. The Lysandra again here as we get Ornn on the top side. And then, oh my, Thompson keep pulling out crazy stuff here. We get a Ziggs in the mid lane here for conceded. And then we also have Sheep on the Blitzcrank to go alongside this Aphelios, which, I mean, they're pulling out all the stops. They're going crazy with this one as we get Veigar locked in for Bob Jones.
I love it. If he can't go Nautilus, he may as well go Blitzcrank, right? Next best thing.
I mean, Thresh and Blitzcrank, the only 2 hook supports left. Well, I guess Pike if you count him, but he's even less played. We've seen Blitzcrank already, no Pike. But Blitzcrank here, I loved it in the first game we had. I'm going to love it again here from Sheep. This is going to be a crazy game. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm worried Thompson have doing too many crazy things, but I love it.
You just have to put your money on the line, You get back against the wall. You lost the first game. They may not be feeling confident in their set strategy. They said, okay, well, it didn't work for us the first time. Let's just go back to square one. We're going to completely blow it up and change the way that we play. It's a gamble. It's a risk, but you have to try. Yeah,
put all your chips on the table here. This is going to be a crazy game no matter what happens here. Bob Jones going a little bit more standard, a little more what you would expect here. I am interested to see where everything's going to go because it looks like, to me, we may have a Veigar support with the Senna in the bot side, or maybe we'll have actually a mage carry in the bot lane with like a Veigar Senna bot lane, and then the Senna will be the support. So I'm kind of interested to see where they're going to send everyone.
The Veigar is such an interesting pick because he can really play, as you mentioned, in the support or in the mid lane. But with the composition, Veigar can be so strong because he traps those enemies in, right? Trying to make sure nobody can get away once you find those engages.
Yeah, the good news for the Blitzcrank, he's got a lot of good hook targets. The Ornn, the worst one for sure, but 4 targets that are pretty good. Echo can maybe ult away, and sometimes Lysandra can self-ult. But if you are able to chain CC her, which you can do with Blitzcrank and Skit into potentially just a lot of extra damage, you can kind of knock her down before she's able to get off any key ability. Same thing with the Echo. So my thought is that he does have like 4 good targets to hook, and Bob Jones have picked a little bit into that Blitzcrank where they're a little bit susceptible to getting hooked for sure. But both sides are a little bit interesting. Bob Jones a little bit more standard, but they are doing some interesting things with their bot lane for sure.
Yeah, the bot lane was something for Bob Jones last game that really didn't have overall too much impact early. I'm wondering if they're just trying to change it up to maybe try and swing the game in their favor early on. But we're going to jump right into it here. Game number 2 between Bob Jones and Thompson. getting started right
well,
now.
this is quite weird. Bob Jones are going for orange support, which isn't unheard of, but Lysandra top up against the GP, then Vagar mid, Senna 80 carry, which I thought was going to be the pick. But now the orange support, kind of interesting. You don't see that too often. So that'll be another melee support in the bot lane, in the bot lane, which is better because the Blitzcrank doesn't want to hook Ornn as much. So it's a bit of a better matchup in the 2v2.
I was just about to say the same exact thing. The Blitzcrank going against the Ornn really doesn't fit the Blitzcrank that well. It will nullify the effect of Blitz throughout the game, especially early on. As we mentioned, Bob Jones looking to perhaps build a lead early in that bot side.
All right, we'll see what they can do there or here. I mean, both sides, really interesting drafts for sure, but Master Yi, Blitzcrank, Aphelios, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Even the Zakes you don't get to see too often here. Really excited for this one here, and Thompson want to just go out with a bang. You know, they do not want to go out quietly. They're going to make a statement here. Whether it's good or bad, something interesting is going to happen for sure with them.
Yes, as we see both teams getting that leash near the bot side for their jungles as they're clearing the first buff and now working towards their lanes. A little bit of action top side.
So the top laner, you know, we talked about how a ranged top laner can be a bit better here. Lysandra's not the typical top ranged character where you would think like, oh, a Jace or someone else who would just harass with auto attacks. Lysandra's a mage, so she doesn't have that same ability quite, but she can still make life a little bit difficult on the GP, especially GP. He's in a lot of trouble. I mean, he's got a lot of mana problems. So if he keeps spamming those parlays, he will run out of mana eventually, but he is doing a decent job in the lane right now. We'll see if that continues here. But mid lane should just be a wave clear battle. The side lanes, though, we might get to see some action.
Yeah, and I'm wondering the pathing as well for the junglers. Again, we're seeing Yi work towards his own jungle. I'm wondering if he's going to try and either help his top lane out in that GP or try and push the advantage mid. Really could go either way there.
Definitely not sure what he will do because, like I said, farming is such an important thing at Mastery because you need experience, you need items, you need everything, right, for later on in the game when you become just that crazy champion that can just have so much damage. And everyone knows a late game Master Yi is basically unstoppable if you don't have enough hard CC to chain him down for long enough. But getting that late game is so hard in the jungle right now because you just don't have that same ability to just farm out and scale like laners do. So that's the unfortunate thing for the Master Yi right now, why he's not very commonly played. Master Yi hasn't been commonly played in a long time, but while he's not commonly played, especially right now. So we'll see how it goes. He's farming up quite heavily here, just leaves the Krugs, but now got to fight around Scuttle. Perhaps going to have a fight up there. Echo Mastery looking for it.
Yeah, and it looks like they're both teams calling for some help here as this engage starts to happen.
Talos gets the smite. Looks like he'll hop over the wall here. He does have an ability to dash over the wall as the Echo. So Talos trying. He'll actually flash over. Okay, it looks like his E was on cooldown, so he didn't get the dash over. I think he dashed into the wall by mistake, so a bit unfortunate. Talos, with a mistake, cost him his flash, but not the end of the world. Does get the crab here. Mastery looking back towards bot side, maybe grab that crab.
As you mentioned, a bit of an unfortunate spot, but you have to use the flash to stay alive early. You don't want to give that pick early to the other team. A little unfortunate, but still smart in the end to flash away.
Especially if he goes over the GP or Master E. They are very good at scaling into late game. If you accelerate that, it becomes incredibly hard to exploit their weaknesses, and then they just get to that point in the game where they become unstoppable. But Youth already out of mana here, and now, I'm gonna miss you, bud. Well, he's taken that as a sign to go aggressive here. Gonna force Youth back for sure. Probably gonna get the TP out of him as he, you know, churned through all that mana now. Definitely has to go back to base to replenish that here. Bot lane pretty even. Mid lane, though, we have seen a slight CS lead here. We got already about a wave and a half of CS in favor of Conceded.
Yeah, and an interesting point on that topside push there, too, is you saw the Echo come up, right, and try and help out, but the engage happened a little bit too quick for the Echo to get there, so no real shot at getting that first takedown.
Not going to get it here this time, but kind of a bad back for Yuke. He's only going to get boots and then a crystal for some extra mana, so he doesn't really get a ton off that back. You definitely want Sheen on the first back or Phage. You know, that first component of the Triforce is really what you want here. So not the ideal setup for the GP, but not, you know, as good as getting that first takedown. So a bit unfortunate there, but they still have opportunities to punish him in the future.
Looking to see if either team is willing to set up around that Drake. Should be up right now. Trying to establish some vision in the river and around the pit.
You know, some good vision put down by Thompson already. You can see they have 3 different wards down in the enemy jungle as well as in the river here. And they have that Scuttle Crab, so they definitely know what's going on with this Dragon here. They also have GP's ultimate coming online in just a little bit here. Once he gets level 6, he gets that Cannon Barrage, which can be used globally. He can place it anywhere on the map. It'll send down a bunch of cannonball shots and give a lot of extra damage. And a slow, which is huge in those fights early on. Here is a great buffer. Well done by the Ornn there. His W, the Bellows Breath, makes him unstoppable. So when he gets CC'd, he actually just doesn't, he just ignores it. He's unstoppable. So if you are able to buffer at the correct time, that Rocket Grab actually won't go through and won't pull you back to him.
Yes, again, this is why the Ornn can be such a difficult matchup for that Blitzcrank. You just saw a great illustration of it there. When the hooks land, but they still don't do anything, can be very, very aggravating.
For sure. Every Blitzcrank player knows that feeling of going up against a champion that just kind of shuts you down lane. Alistair is a common one, but Ornn also another great matchup into him. Makes it very, very frustrating because you're hitting all these hooks. You're like, I'm doing it, but you know the Ornn just sits in front of the AD carry and makes it impossible for you to really do anything. So a nice, smart matchup for sure, but makes the life of Sheep very difficult here. As the Master Yi continuing to farm up here. He's got 3 daggers in inventory. Going to be a lot of attack speed coming in for the Master Yi in the future for sure. Once he gets that Blood Razor completed, he gets very, very good at taking objectives. So that's going to be a very big positive later on for Thompson, is they get amazing at taking the neutral objectives because Blood Razor is such an amazing item for that. Master Yi is a great champion for that.
And again, Echo helping apply that pressure topside, trying to get I'm a Miss You But ahead in that lane. I like that decision. Try and work with some of your best players on the stronger matchup. Try and push the advantage.
Alrighty here, so the Master Yi continue to farm up. He's got a significant lead on the Echo. Well, as we said, the scaling not as good in the jungle here, so he's going to have to get a really big lead in order for it to make it matter an incredible amount here. But the Master Yi is up a level in the jungle. That's the good news. Talus has put a lot of attention towards the top side, but they haven't really gotten too much off it, other than just a little bit of pressure there and a forced TP. We'll see if they can make that into a Dragon with a TP down to the bot side, maybe try and fight there, but right now, Gatsita Goon the one actually clearing out wards in the bot side.
This has been really back and forth in this early game so far. No team really establishing a clear objective. It's just been very patient, very calculated, just waiting for the right spots as we might get some action in the river here.
Yeah, so Taliesin offensively trying to protect this control ward here. The Event Horizon put down, no stun found. In fact, the ward will be taken out. So they attempt to save that ward to try and keep some presence in the river in terms of vision here, as well as denying the vision from Thompson. But Thompson get that ward down. Bob Jones not able to control the river as they were hoping here, which is definitely important because that Infernal Dragon would be nice to pick up. Another side really wants to commit to that just yet. You know, individual dragons are still powerful, but again, committing too hard for them can be your downfall, as the enemy team can get so far ahead that it's just like, all right, well, that commitment for the dragon definitely wasn't worth it in the end.
Right, and you get the feeling that Bob Jones is, as they saw in the last game, seemingly content with just, okay, we're going to play patient, we're going to play smart, and we're just going to try and wait for the mid to late game to really find our advantage.
They definitely have an advantage there for sure, so playing to that is a good idea. I mean, Veigar scales incredibly well into the late game, but Master Yi, the GP, there's so much threat onto that Veigar, so we'll see if Thompson can win that late game. As Tyr picked up for the Senna, she's trying to stack that up. She's interesting AD carry in her build paths. She actually doesn't scale off of attack speed like the Jhin actually does. She doesn't scale off attack speed particularly well. So she definitely wants to build more AD items here. First she'll get the Mana Immune, and then usually she'll get the Lethality items. And then sometimes round it out with Infinity Edge or Rune-Ins sometimes I've seen. But usually I've seen Infinity Edge, Phantomancer, Infinity Edge, you know, some other crit items. Usually, though, that's the later part of the build. You usually get Mana Immune into like 1 or 2 Lethality items. Sometimes I've seen 3, but usually 2.
Yeah, and another key element that I want to look at as well is I want to see some action from this Aphelios pick as well, you know. Such a strong individual character when played well. Talked about the AD carry for Thompson. I just can't wait to see, once those fights break out, once those engages start to occur, how Aphelios can work his kid into his advantage.
Juggling those weapons also very important around the team fights. His weapons have ammo, so you need to manage that correctly so you can get the right couple weapons in your hands. His kit's very complicated. Give it a brief rundown. He basically has 5 different weapons that all have different effects, depending on which one he has and which one is in the offhand. It's really complicated, so we can't go over all of it now because his page breaking down his abilities is like basically an essay.
We could spend almost the entire game.
If we want to spend the entire game, we could. But right now, the hook gonna miss that time around. Still knocked back here. It looks like the Ornn will get away here, and Drizzle Crash and poke damage. But now the Dragon contest might come in here. Already the FL is quite low. Call the Forge Guard coming in from the orange. Gonna find a big knock-up here. Senna with a Dawning Shadow, a lot of damage here. It looks like the fight gonna go in favor of Bob Jones as the orange charges forward. He's gonna go down, but the chase is on for Bob Jones onto Thompson. Oh, the damage back, big damage here from the Ziggs. A double takedown in the Feathers with 2 as well. A massive fight as they kite back. The 2 carries win it for Thompson.
I just mentioned I want to see the play out of the Philios. Really nice job there, countering that damage, waiting and waiting and waiting, biding his time, turning his advantage ultimately, and the Drake will go in their favor.
Massive plays there for Thompson. That is a huge fight for them. It looked so bad at the start. Bob Jones with a great gauge with a Call of the Forge got into Event Horizon, but offensively never got his ultimate off in the end. He didn't find the big damage from that ability. Didn't knock down one of the carries here and then conceded, and a Light Locust just kited back and did some brilliant things there. No SSR for completion just yet here for Light Locust, but he's certainly doing a great job now. Up a bit of CS with those 2 takedowns. He's in a great spot here. Things looking great for Thompson after falling in game 1.
It appears that the gamble has paid off early, at least. Finding that initial victory in the first team fight and picking up the Drake. Really, really nicely played from them. They're going to have to try and snowball it now, though.
Certainly going to have to keep that advantage up for sure. Rift Herald. Master Yi was looking at it, but there is a ward on it, so if it was started, Bob Jones would know and potentially could contest. But with the Blood Razor completed, Master Yi is incredibly good at taking neutral objectives like the Dragon, the Bear, and the Rift Herald. Everything, in that sort of category, he's incredibly good at taking. So if they do leave that Rift Herald unattended for just a little bit of time, Conceded Goon can certainly knock it down really, really quickly here. And love where Thompson is at right now with their composition. They feel so strong right now. Still waiting on a few more items for sure here and there, but this early game has gone about as good as you could have hoped for a composition that wants to play to the mid and late game.
Absolutely. I was just about to say the same thing, considering that ultimately the idea is to get to the late game for them. The fact that they are ahead early, again, roughly a 2,000 gold advantage in their favor. And if you look at it now, applying the pressure in all the lanes too, really trying to push up and use that to their advantage.
They seem to have control of the map here. Master Yi again still like loitering around this Rift Herald here.
He wants it bad.
Both junglers are here. We'll see if they end up fighting each other here. Very important how their abilities interact here. The Master Yi can outplay potentially the Echo by using, oh, flash play in. Sheep not going to find the hook. Good attempt, but not able to grab the enemy AD carry there. But Master Yi with the Alpha Strike can potentially dodge the parallel convergence, so he can dodge a stun the Echo, which is a big part of his kit. So it's very interesting how they interact together. A lot of complex things you got to go through there in just a short amount of time to figure out how to play that 1v1. So I'll be interested to see if that goes down here. But another 2.5 minutes on the Dragon, and then the Rift Herald's still up in the top side. But neither side has opted to try and attempt to take that yet, as Plating's going to despawn soon here, just another couple seconds. About 15 left, then they'll be gone, so no more gold, extra gold on the map.
I was just about to say that for the bot laner in particular and Aphelios there, making sure to push up and get that turret plating while it's still up. Again, once it falls, you can't pick up that extra gold. So trying to, again, roll with the advantage when they got it.
Certainly good essence for completion, though, for Light Locust. And Zig's still waiting on his item. But first items coming in pretty much everywhere here for Thompson besides that mid lane. Obviously, the forts. Forts are poor all the time, unfortunately. But
no glory.
Everywhere else is doing quite well. Now Ziggs finally gets his first item. So Thompson is looking in a really good spot. There are first items completed elsewhere, but really not at the same strength right now as Bob Jones. And Azonia's first for Lysandra is incredibly defensive itemization. She will not have very much damage at all. She'll have the stasis, which is very powerful with her kit, but really not the ideal first item, but building it because of the fear of the enemy team.
And it
like
almost
that.
works, yes. And it almost works in a sense too for when team fights start to happen, you can almost bait players in with it, right? If they are not paying attention to the items perhaps, and Azonia's comes out early, drawing them in and then allowing your teammates to cover for you can be effective, but it's, as you mentioned, very defensive style of itemization.
Yeah, got to press that tab, make sure you know what kind of items the enemy have so you can play around them here. So Zonia's will be important. We'll see if it gets value. But if it doesn't get value in team fights, it's definitely not a great first item here. As Lysandra going in, but maybe a bit too far, flashing back out, but here comes the Conceded Goon. So there's the Zonia's used, but oh no, the Master Chief's trying to BM here. We'll get the, in the end, the last hit with the Alpha Strike here is a flash in from Yuke, gonna force the ultimate back from Talon. He's trying to flash away, but Yuke will grab that. A big double on the top side here, one for each. Yuke and Conceded Goon getting one with a little bit of BM added in.
Yeah, we saw again the problems, right, with going Zhonya's early, absorbing all that damage, pulling out the Zhonyas, but there's no coverage from your teammates. You're still in a bad spot. It ultimately results in 2 takedowns for Thompson. They are rolling.
Yeah, it didn't have the damage there to deal with that 2v2. It didn't have the mana health going in as well. Went in at the wrong time. Good read by Conceited Goon to counter that gank. And now the Rift Herald going to go over finally. Seems like it's been a while, but they finally get it here. And that's big. No platings left to get that goal, but the Dragon's up soon. They have an empowered recall, at least Conceited Goon will, with that Rift Herald. Maybe he can get down there early and use that Rift Herald to either open up a big play in one of these lanes to take down turrets, or just use it to secure the Dragon.
Yeah, again, both teams sort of resetting. They know the importance now of the Drake coming up. Looks like trying to establish some vision and some presence in the river near that bot side Drake.
Well, that's going to be the goal here. 6-1 right now the score. Thompson is firmly in the lead. They're doing a great job here after falling in game 1 with a crazy composition, but things working out here as Talon getting jumped on the Alpha Strike here. The rocket grab back. The hook is there. Goon has it. Nice job by Sheep to secure that one. But now Dragon over. Talos down here. His 3rd of the game.
That was a really nice hook there from Sheep. Just pulling him right back into the path of E. Really, really smart play. They get the pick and the Dragon.
And now the Rift Herald on top of that. They get the Dragon now looking for a play bot side with 4 members here. And the Zig still wave clearing in the mid lane. They're going to get a lot off this Rift Herald. Probably the inner turret as well, I would assume. You know, there's not really many people here to defend. Not a ton of great wave clear at the moment. Senna's not a very good wave clear AD carry in general. And now the Rift Herald's going to get a second charge in here onto the inner turret. The hook over the wall. They find the Ornn. A blind hook. The Ornn had no way to react to that. Beautifully played by Sheep here, as it looks like the Ornn will fall to the ult of the cannon barrage from Yuke. Going to grab that one. They don't get the inner turret just yet, but they are still firing away, and they get the Ornn as well. Brilliantly played by Thompson there, as Conceited still harassing the Lissandra in the mid lane.
Can we talk about that hook? Oh my word. Being able to find that blind hook right over the walls, we get another great fight in mid here. This one's close.
Oh, Conceited can't quite find the last damage he needs. Great sidestep, and now, oh, the zone he's going to save her. Can Conceited get it? He will in the end. Brilliantly there. The last satchel charge will secure it. So a solo in the mid lane there. Ziggs with his 3rd of the game here. We got a while to go before more neutral objectives are up, but Thompson are pushing the pace. They're going in again. Talos hooked once again. Conceited Goon once again with the takedown 3 now for him. Brilliant play by Thompson. Again, they're the ones who's supposed to be falling behind.
Wow, again, the pressure on this bot side is just absolutely immense. Those hooks are landing left, right, and center. So deadly, so effective, being able to pull those enemy champions towards your teammates who have the attack damage to cover for you.
Well, they only have one really good target to absorb the hooks, but the Ornn has not been able to buff the last couple, because what the Blitzcrank has been doing is sitting behind walls or sitting behind something so that the Ornn can't see him, so he doesn't know when to buffer. He just doesn't have the reaction time. Humans don't have the reaction time to do that, so there's really no way for the Ornn to buffer that with the Bella's Breath to try and go unstoppable and stop the hook, or even just block from his teammates, because they just don't see him coming. So this has been brilliantly played with the Blitzcrank. Just overall, Thompson have done a great job here in game 2. They've got a lead, and I don't know if they're ever going to look back here, because as we said, Bob Jones not really designed to compete with them in the late game. The Veigar will scale and be very, very scary. If this game drags out, maybe he can turn things around. But the rest of the team not really matching up quite as you would hope for Bob Jones.
I said support difference earlier, right? That's the key, support difference?
Support difference, yeah. Support difference is the most important thing. And better jungle wins is always the thing you need to put in chat after every win. I think that this game is really, really tough for Bob Jones in any lane that Veigar is not in, because he gets decent wave clear, but Senna really doesn't. Lissandra, decent, but not really great. And that's going to be tough, is just trying to rotate Veigar around to stop it. This poke coming in, the Veigar's even having a tough time keeping them at bay here in the mid lane.
Yeah, and just, again, even take a look towards the top of your screen here, the gold difference for Thompson, right? Nearly, doing quick math here, 8K ahead in gold. Just a huge economic advantage in this game. They're so far ahead in so many different ways. Continuing to push in this mid lane, I like it. They're playing well, they're playing smart, they're trying to force the game 3.
So this Ziggs being a real nuisance here, just throwing out those bombs everywhere. Littering the battlefield with them, checking them all over. People having to dodge. And the minions are going to take the damage as they come through there, those little mines. Barret has spawned, no dragon for another minute and a half. It's going to be a mountain dragon. So that'll be interesting here to certainly see how that changes things. That'll give you some resistances, gives you basically some tanky stats to deal with the enemy. As Sheep going in, the hook going to be buffered, brilliantly played by the Orn once again. He actually saw that one coming, so he couldn't react.
Well, the hook didn't come over the wall that time. Blitz was standing in the lane looking for his chance to go. Orn did well there to counter.
Nicely done by both those guys. A nice little hex flash into hook attempt, but Orn up to the task to deny that one. Sheep done a great job, but every time he's seen him coming, he's been able to buffer them. Really nice job by that support, which the Orn's pick was really interesting, but has worked out quite well for the most part. I mean, considering the game is, not in favor of Bob Jones right now, the Orn support has worked out pretty well. Oh no, another blind one. Sheep's over the wall, Ignite on him. He does not have flash to get away. Will fall. No, he will. Aftershock's buying a lot of time, but will finally go down now to the ultimate of Light Locust. Took a little while, but they finally got him.
Yeah, once you get that hook over the wall, it's very difficult to save your teammate in that spot. It's just so disorienting. You're padding towards a lane. You have an objective in mind. You get another fight.
Another hook on offensively here. The Zoni is going to be used. Sheep in trouble. He will fall, but even up already. Bob Jones striking back, but Conceited Goon here alongside Conceited POS going to come back and even up the score here. In fact, taking lead as Drizzle has to flash away. This Master E is getting incredibly scary. And Conceited massive damage from so far away.
Just so smart from Bob Jones. Picking their fights where they want them. Again, working in the enemy's jungle, applying that pressure both in the bot side and in the mid lane nearly simultaneously. They're trying to get those towers down and work towards the base.
Well, the Dragon going to go over to Master E here. He's going to soul that one away. Again, we talked about how good the Blood Raisers are taking objectives here. Usually at 20 minutes, 22 minutes, even sometimes at 25 minutes, Baron is a little bit risky because he can do so much damage to you. But with the way they've structured their composition, they have a decent tank in Blitzcrank, and GP can also heal up. But the damage that's going to come out, especially a Rage Blade Yi, is going to deal. It's just going to deal so much damage to the Baron that it'll just be deleted in a couple seconds. So you have to be very careful as Bob Jones and making sure the enemy team isn't on Baron, because if they do get onto it, they will burn down so quick that you won't even have a chance to react. So they got to be very, very vigilant about this Baron take.
It looks like they're headed that way now. Again, trying to establish some vision in this Baron pit. You mentioned all of the strength that Master Yi has to take the Baron. We'll see if they can get a team fight going. They're so behind. Again, 12K difference in gold. The team fights are so advantageous in the favor of Thompson. I just don't know if they can contest to really stave off.
Oh, massive damage from the GP. Ziggs throwing his ultimate in. Will only land on one member, but the GP with the barrels into the cannon barrage. The powder kegs deal so much damage. They actually have built-in armor penetration, so if you get hit in the keg, it actually ignores 40% of your armor. So that's obviously why they're taking so much damage here. Sheep gonna find maybe. Oh, wow.
So
very, very
close.
lucky there on the back. There's a little bit of invulnerability time as you're backing where you can't be interrupted. That was very key there to make sure that the Veigar got away. But here comes the engage. Call the Forge God coming in. They find the knockup, but no follow-up after that. Bob Jones looking for the engage, but now one of the big cooldowns gone.
Yeah, and just simply pressing the attack through the middle, trying to pick up this inhibitor, which it looks like they will get. Huge advantage now in the mid lane, just trying to end the game.
Got caught by the... Oh, here comes the engage from Lysandra. Finds a stun here on the Light Locust. He's already down. Huge engage now, but the follow-up coming through. They've lost his support. Bob Jones are trying to fight back, but in the back line is Yuke. Flash away from the jungler. Talus trying to survive. Drizzle Crab, he's going to get the heal up. Yuke trying to get forward and find the autos here. He will do it in the end here. Parlay finds it as offensively flashing forward. He's going to get the shutdown there onto the GP. Here comes the Conceited Goon. He's knocking down everyone. I miss you, but he'll fall as well to Conceited here as Conceited Goon with a double in the enemy base. Massive plays from Master E now with 5, but I don't think they can end the game from here. It'll be very tricky to do so.
Wow, what a chaotic team fight there in the base. Just everyone absolutely going all in. The respawn should be coming in fairly quick, though. As you mentioned, I don't think they'll be able to end the game here. But
we're still so early in the game with the respawn timers aren't long enough.
It's massively in the favor of Thompson, though. I do not see a way back for Bob Jones on this.
A smart play by Thompson, just go for the inhibitor there. They have a satchel charge on the Ziggs, which if a turret's at 25% or less health, it'll actually just get executed by the satchel charge if you put it next to it. So they're able to knock down those turrets pretty quickly and get open a second inhibitor, which again, with decent wave clear on Bob Jones, but really not over, it's not better than average or anything. It's just average, except for Veigar, especially when he scales up. Everyone else is just kind of eh. So they can't really deal with 2 waves of supers, let alone 1, especially one that's far away from the Baron. That's on the opposite side. That bottom lane inhibitor creates so much pressure on one side of the map while the Baron's up, and Thompson want to take it.
it's just a game of cat and mouse really at this point for Bob Jones, picking and choosing where they can apply pressure on the map, where they get it. As you can see, that minion wave from the mid lane already coming through right now. It's already in their base. They have to go back and deal with it. It's just so much to handle at once.
And you have that Rabadon's Death Cat completed for the Ziggs now, and 2 items here on Light Locust. Things are getting very, very scary. The damage from Thompson is just nuts. And Bob Jones don't really have the damage to back up their team here. As Baron, well, it's already gone. About 1,000 health left. And whoa, that got pretty low. Not a great smite, but no one was there, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, just leaving a window of opportunity, but Bob Jones just not in a position really to contest whatsoever. It's just tough to see a way out. If you're Bob Jones in this spot, just try and hold on, right? Try and defend as long as you can.
Well, I think that they can't just wait. If they wait, they will lose slowly. They have to commit to something before the game is over. Otherwise, they're just going to slowly lose to these minions, especially with the Baron buff down. So they've got to commit to something. They can't wait now. Their composition can't wave clear enough as a hook. They're going to be buffered once again. This order doing a great job of that before the inhibitor falls. That's 3 inhibitors down now. We'll have double super minions in the way in all the lanes coming up soon. But the Baron buff might end it before we even get there here, as more poke going to come through. But Bob Jones have to make their final stand here. Otherwise, they're just going to lose here as Tal's coming in. Call the Forge God. Will not. Oh, great interruption with a satchel charge. Brendan Orn from recasting the ulti here. Big damage from the Ziggs in the back line. Lysandra going forward. Tal is going forward. No one's going to get there, though. Massive win. They're fountain diving. The Nexus is down. Thompson win. 1-1. Bob Jones can't end the match here.
Wow, what a great performance from Thompson in that game number 2. Coming back out of game 1, fairly even up until the end, but really an incredible job by Thompson to press the attack early. That early advantage, they just snowballed it all the way through to the end.
I mean, it was a fantastic game for sure. I was so stunned by the way they were able to execute that early game, because their champions just aren't as strong as Bob Jones at that stage in the game, but that fight around Dragon, I mean, that just was everything in that game.
And you got to give credit to the Aphelios player, again, coming back, once that fight happens, picking up the double kill on his own, providing a 4v1 advantage really near that Dragon, building the economic advantage, the objective advantage, pressuring all the lanes. Just a complete performance from everyone.
Light Locust was fantastic there for sure, and then 5 mid lane bans. 5 mid lane bans, and he still picks up the Ziggs and goes, I don't think he even fell once that entire game. Massive game as well from the mid laner there. 80 carry mid laner came through, but the rest of the map so good as well. The Blitzcrank Sheep was so good with his hooks. So the Ornn, like, if the Ornn hadn't done such a good job, that would have been even worse.
I have so much respect for that Blitzcrank player. Finding those blind hooks over the wall is not an easy thing to do. You have to time it well, you have to be in the right spots, and you have to have the anticipation to pull it off. So effective from the Blitzcrank, and really able to just pick those players one-on-one, right? Once you get those situations where then you're 5v4 or 4v3 on the map, you can press your advantage. They just did it the whole game. And yeah, just really overall commanding performance from Thompson.
Wow. What a great game from Thompson. We're going to be going to Game 3. I think this is the first time we've had a Game 3 in a League of Legends series here.
I'm so excited.
We've had a couple Game 7s in Rocket League, but first time we had a Game 3 in League of Legends. Excited for more coming up. Thompson now won. Bob Jones won. We're going to Game 3. We'll be back in just a few moments.
I think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
Man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school.
Just like our Rocket League series, our League of Legends series has me on the edge of my seat. We are in a Game 3 between these two schools in the PlayVS Fall 2019 state finals for Alabama, and we're about to find out who's going to win. Let's take it to that Game 3, Kios and Perino.
In Game 3, ready to go. Bob Jones High School versus Thompson High School. we've gone the distance. First time we've had it all last couple of weeks. Haven't had a game 3. This is really big. These teams seem so even too. 2 pretty long games for the meta, and I mean, they've looked so good in both of these games. These teams really deserve to be here, and I'm so excited to see who gets to take home the trophy.
Absolutely. You can't ask for anything more. You get a great series back and forth both ways. Thompson in game number 2 really coming out and impressing me. They went with a draft that we said it initially. We weren't sure if the composition was going to hold up. Oh, it did more than hold up. It dominated that game number 2. So much to look forward to in game 3.
Well, now there's a lot of question marks. Wait, what just what just happened? We can't ban all those champions. We got to figure out how to adapt to that because they just came and just did everything you wouldn't think they would do. There were 5 mid lane bans from Bob Jones High School. They picked Ziggs anyway, got the mid laner pick he wanted, and then they went Master Yi. They did all these crazy picks. What a turnaround, honestly. Bob Jones High School now have to come back in game 3, figure out what to do. Both these teams, though, have done unique things. And now we have a really unique series on our hands because it's not just the normal meta champions you think of. We've got all these new things that are being played here. Not to mention the Rengar in game 1, all sorts of crazy stuff here. This next draft, the next game, going to be incredible.
Yeah, I think really what you have to do at this point for both teams, you just have to go back to your basics. You have to go to your fundamentals. Go with what you are best at doing. There's only so much you can do to counter the other team, especially if they go in an unexpected or unanticipated path. Stick to what you're good at.
Yeah, well, both teams are going to try and do that, maybe capitalize on some of the success they saw in the last games, trying to pick those same champions. We'll see how they adapt. Bob Jones definitely attacking the enemy mid laner here. So with that in mind, why don't we take a look at some of the best mid lane champions right now. We saw Orianna banned last game here, but first we're going to get a quick look at the Akali. She's one of the strongest mid lane assassins here I think we might see because the Orianna 1 is banned here. I think she's an incredibly strong champion here. You can see she's got a lot of mobility tools. That Twilight Shroud interacts with a lot of her kit, gives her a lot of mobility, and also obscures her. You can see the champion just can't see her. They don't know where she is. So that creates a lot of confusion in the enemy team, especially in a team fight scenario where like, well, we got to keep track of that Akali, but all of a sudden she's just not on your screen.
Such a strong champion in this meta overall. Akali can be a great pick on really any team composition. She's just so effective against other laners, as you mentioned, using that shroud to disorient other champions, hiding in the mist, just waiting to go. She can be absolutely deadly.
You can see the Twilight Shroud there. That's a big part of her kit. Her second part of her kit that's really big is that E that interacts with her shroud. The Shuriken Flip allows you to basically mark an enemy champion as you tumble backwards, and then you can recast it to go to them. But if you have done that, you can actually mark the Shroud as well. So you can not only mark enemy champions, you can mark the Shroud and then dash back to that Shroud as well. So there's a lot of interactions between the Shroud and the Shuriken Flip in our kit. And then there's Ultimate here, which is a lot of damage. It can execute at low health points. So it's a really powerful kit here, a lot of mobility, a lot of ways to deceive your enemy here. And then that Q, just a basic damage ability there that's basically in a cone in front of you. She has decent wave clear, but really it's all about that mobility, the assassin, trying to get in the backline and disrupt them.
She can be so effective again later on in the game in those team fights, trying to get into that backline. But I want to pivot directions here a little bit. Let's talk about another strong mid laner. Let's get into Orianna.
Yeah, so one of the strongest mid laners in a team fight scenario. The Shockwave is a big part of her kit, but she also is really good at buffing her teammates and sort of debuffing the enemy. She's got slow. She's also got that shield you see here where she can send it to a teammate here. That Orianna ball you got to keep track of here because then she can use that Shockwave. Big damage and it pulls everyone basically towards the ball. So it's a big CC ability. Can be used in combination with other characters that get into the back line. So if you can put that on someone, they can get into the thick of the enemy team, use that Shockwave, big damage here. So it's all about keeping track of that ball. She can deal damage with it. She can shield teammates. And then obviously that Shockwave, massive ability in those team fights. If you can combo with a thing like a Jarvan, which we saw banned last game, that'd be really powerful.
Orianna is so good early on in the game as well because, as you mentioned, you have to keep track of that ball, right? When you're in your mid lane and you're trying to go against her, you have to worry about so many different things. It's just another element to keep track of. It can add strain to the other mid laner early on. She could be a great pick here for either team.
Yeah, so definitely got to keep an eye on the Orianna as well. What's paired with her was banned last game, but maybe the adaptation for Bob Jones will come in to pick that mid laner at first rotation because there were so many bans levied against them in that position here. So we'll see what the adaptation is, but Orianna is so powerful. Her shield as well gives some resistances to her teammates. So if you put the shield on her, it just absorbs damage, but also gives them resistances, which is big, especially later on in the game because it scales pretty well. So if you put it on a tank, that can be amazing. You just can't get through them because they're so tanky. Or you can put it on a backline member to try and save them from the enemy team who's going after them.
So many different ways to play we can't say it enough. There's just so many different avenues of attack here for both teams in this pick, in this draft. I think I want to see some more targeted bans again. I would maybe be pushing to move Thompson off that Aphelios pick. We saw how dynamic he can be in that bottom lane. They targeted the mid laner. It didn't work. I think they got to spread the bans out in different directions.
The Game 2 of this series really opened everything up. We were like pretty sure about what teams both wanted to pick and like what we needed to focus on. All of a sudden, we come out with all these unique picks in the top lane, in the mid lane, jungle, bot lane, everywhere we saw something unique come through. We don't really, we kind of got to throw all that stuff out the window. Like, hey, we think we had a read on what was going on, but now we don't, because all of a sudden Master E comes in, the Ziggs is incredibly powerful. We got to kind of reevaluate now, and both teams have to do that of like what is really important in this series, because all the things that we thought coming in as well as after Game 1 just kind of got shattered. Those expectations are no longer there.
Which is why I think it's such an important element of just sticking to what you are best at. You have to factor in what the enemy team chooses, of course, but generally speaking, I think I want both teams here to just go with champions that they're good on. Regardless of the meta, regardless of the picks, just make sure you go out and give your best possible performance and use your best possible champion to do that.
For sure. Getting on a pick you're comfortable on is very, very important. And some players have a very wide champion pool where they can, have a lot of different options at their disposal. Some don't. You look at Bob Jones' mid laner. Lissandra both games. Not bad at all to be a one-dimensional player in terms of like what your team needs. But sometimes being able, in a 3-game series especially, being able to break out a unique champion can be the tipping point, because that changes the whole matchup, changes the way the enemy team has to play around you. So having that extra unique pick can be important here, but also getting on what you want is important as well for that comfort, because that is really the thing that I think won the game, as you pointed out last game for Thompson High School, is that they just had all champions that they were really comfortable on. They knew exactly what they wanted to play, how they wanted to play them, and they just executed. That's all it was, They weren't even really supposed to win at that stage in the game that they won, because they just like came out firing and won. When Master E is a really weak early game champion, Ziggs mediocre, and Aphelios same thing. So it's just incredible to see them come out with just the champions they really know and love.
And League of Legends is such a game of so much knowledge and depth to it. It is so difficult to be so good on so many different champions. You really have to put in the time and the effort and the commitment to learn all of these different champions, their skills, their abilities, their counters. There's so much that goes on to it. It's why I think in this pressure situation, again, you win this game and you're state champions. In a pressure situation, go with your comfort zone. Back to the basics and to the fundamentals, and you will give yourself the best shot at succeeding.
Certainly Game 3, best of 7s, Game 7, whatever it is, that last game, there's a little bit of extra pressure for sure coming out the gate, and you just don't want to be the person who makes the mistake. That's always the thing in Game 3. Sometimes you see a little bit of a slower pace because of that, where just like everyone's just trying not to be the one who loses the game for their team. So we'll see if that affects any of these players at all here, but they have looked so good so far. It seems like the nerves aren't getting to them here. Both teams have come out with dominant performances. We'll see who can take it in game number 3. I'm excited to see if we get a unique picks. We talked all day pretty much about this unique bot lane potential here, but there's really been the other positions that have been unique. We've seen a little bit of Orange Sports a little abnormal, but really it's been the mid jungle top lane that we've seen unique picks. So I'm hoping in game 3 we get a unique one in the bot lane.
Yeah, that would be very exciting. I think a Yasuo bot would be really interesting to go up with, simply because we haven't seen any bans of Yasuo in this thing. He's not really a meta champion at the moment, but if you have a player who's very skilled on him and you can put him and essentially surprise the other team, putting him in the bot lane, it can be advantageous.
And the Yasuo pairs very well with Gragas, who's a decent jungler right now. He's a very good ganker early on, not particularly good at fighting 1v1, but he can be a powerful jungler as well. Or you can just sit him in the bot lane. Let's just play like a bot lane where we have a Yasuo Gragas or a Yasuo and a Thresh or something. That could be really interesting. We'll see what they go with, but I am really excited for sure about the potential for a bot lane pick, because you've seen unique picks everywhere else, so I'm hoping we can get that as we hop into draft in just a couple seconds here.
Yeah, so many different avenues. They've had so much time to think about it as well. Again, you do your homework right before the series starts. You have an idea. You learn from game 1. You learn from game 2. Everything on the line here in game 3. We'll see what their research brings them to do.
All right, here we go with the first draft. Bob Jones High School will be on that first pick on the left side of your screen. Thompson on the right here. So we'll see what they do with this. As we talked about before, Bob Jones has been very, very concerned about the mid lane. Once again, with that Cassiopeia ban, conceded Favorite champion, makes sense to ban at every game. That's what they've done here. We'll see if there's another 5 bans levied against him. But that was what happened in Game 2. Kind of a crazy occurrence here as we get Nautilus banned here, which is another good champion that's paired with the Yasuo at times. So unfortunately, we won't get to see that here. But I think that Bob Jones is sticking to their guns. Just ban out the mid laner because he's been a real problem.
Yeah, you have to continue to target as, again, we see another one come through here.
Yeah, Caston once again. That was a second rotation one last time. But now Caston gets banned out, which is kind of interesting. Gets first rotation here. But Bob Jones definitely seemed like they have a plan and want to continue to attack that mid lane here, get offensively and do just a decent matchup and then play around the rest of the map seems to be like their plan. But Thompson on the other side focusing more around that bot lane here with the Aphelios Nautilus this time around. So actually not all 5 bans going to be against the mid lane here. Bob Jones finally getting rid of that GP. So not all 5 bans against conceded. That's been the theme, just ban him out, but now finally we're getting a GP.
Yeah, it seems like you can't spend all of your bans on one player. It's just, even though one player can have a tremendous impact on a game, there are so many different ways of moving around that. I don't think going with a 5 mid ban makes sense in this case, but we'll get our first picks coming through.
Oh, Morgana going to be the first pick here. So a safer mage support in the bot lane, which is kind of good against the ranged or the melee supports that are sort of engage heavy in this meta. So she's kind of like the one range support that's really being played at all. But we're getting back to it. Sheep on the Blitzcrank. I'm excited for this one as we also get the Diana in the mid lane.
Yes, and again, Talos coming through with the Jhin pick as well. So that's a pretty strong bot lane, I would say, that Morgana Jhin going up against a Blitz and then a Diana in the mid. Keep coming through. Looks like Veigar again.
Yeah, a lot of chain CC there in the bot lane where the Dark Binding into the follow-up from Jhin. That'll be definitely scary if they get caught here. But Blitzcrank Caitlyn in the bot lane here for Thompson. So definitely looking for hooks, but if you get a hook into a trap, the Euro Snap Trap can spell the doom of the enemy team. So it's going to be really important that Tibfly is on top of his black shields, because if he doesn't hit the black shield at the right time or puts it on the wrong person, that could be a takedown. I mean, that's how quick it can go. So he's going to be really on top of the black shields his entire game. Otherwise, that Blitzcrank, one hook can change an entire game for sure.
Yes, this is shaping up to be a battle of supports, but I'm interested to see what happens with our jungle picks here as we continue to go through. We haven't really seen that matchup come up yet, so.
Well, Master Yi going to be banned away alongside the Rengar, which is more top side, it seems like, for Thompson. They prefer the Rengar on the top side, but the Master Yi ban, what a unique thing to come through in this series. To get Olaf Echo on the other side for Bob Jones, or rather for Thompson against Bob Jones. So a bit more, typical, but really, this is still a unique draft with the Veigar. The Diana is also still played quite a bit, but not top tier for most people. As we get a Trundle, really interesting. Trundle's usually counterpicked into the Olaf. That's kind of why that's the purpose he has. But now we get the Trundle, and then now Bob Jones willing to pick them into the Sejuani matchup, which Trundle is usually used to counter things like Olaf and Sejuani, but Bob Jones willingly picked the Sejuani into that Trundle. Very interesting. This could be a top lane Trundle, but it looks like this is going to be jungle Trundle for sure, and the Singed locked in top side. So a lot of unique picks in the last half of this draft here. But any of your thoughts? Because this is kind of a crazy last couple picks.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think the Echo ban and the Master Yi ban really forced some creative picks out of the jungle here, forcing players perhaps off of their preferred champions. Yeah, this is such a dynamic matchup, and we saw the craziness that worked in Game 2 for Thompson. I'm wondering if they can continue that in Game 3.
Well, they've got a Singed, which is always a thorn in the side of many teams. He's just running around here. But Nard is a ranged champion when he's in that mini form, so that can be a bit easier to deal with a Singed overall. And Gnar, Sejuani have a lot of team fight presence here to go alongside the massive damage output that they will, Bob Jones will actually have with their 2 carries here. And a good front line to deal with a Blitzcrank. But the Sejuani matchup into Trundle is generally not very good because the ultimate, Trundle actually will steal the resistances and health of the enemy. So if he presses that R button, he can really hurt the Sejuani. In fact, if you proc the Aftershock rune, which essentially when you CC, hard CC an enemy target, so stun them, root them, whatever it is, you will get extra armor and in MR or resistances. So that way you can tank up more. It's kind of the rune that, runes help you out with different effects here. But because of that interaction, Trundle can actually put Sejuani on negative armor and MR when you proc Aftershock and then the Trundle then ults. So Sejuani will actually be taking more damage than she's supposed to. So sometimes people, because of this, will end up going for a fleet footwork on the Sejuani to clear the jungle healthier, but you give up the Aftershock, which makes you much tankier in team fights. So it's kind of interesting here because generally Sejuani is, comes before the Trundle. So interesting that Bob Jones decided to pick into it. But the Gnar pick gives you split push and the team fight. So Bob Jones definitely playing that by ear. We'll see what the Gnar does. May build for the split push, but more likely going to build just a Black Cleaver into tank to try and make this team fight, unbeatable for Bob Jones, because they have a very strong team fight. Whereas Thompson High School, they have a good team fight as well, but not as simple of a front line to really execute.
So much depth here again, and a crazy draft board. But guys, we are going to hop right into it. This is the start of Game 3, winner take all for the Alabama High School Athletics Association Grand Final, as we see both teams getting set up in the mid lane here.
1-1 here, and we've got a lot of unique picks for sure in Game 2, but even more here in Game 3 going to come through. Not quite as many overall, but we still get some unique picks with the top lane matchup. Gnar Singe, not something you see too often, and the Vhagar, which you got to see in Game 2 coming back, and the Diana new as well. Going for the Conqueror rune, sometimes you'll see Electrocute on her for the more burst damage, but going to go for the longer fights with the Conqueror here for the extra damage you get as well as the healing. So going to be interesting to see how this Diana fares. She's newly reworked, so her basically the bottom line is her ultimate, which used to be a dash after which you could use on anyone, but you get a reset when you mark someone, is now moved to her E. So she gets access to mobility much earlier on, and her ultimate is basically a stronger version of her old E, which basically slows and damages an area, and then has a little extra burst damage at the end there. So very powerful champion if you are able to get a big ultimate off, but also sticks to people really for the entire lane. Like, if she keeps hitting those crescent strikes, you can just chase you guys on the entire lane or however long you want to. So very powerful, as well as getting that shield early on can be big. Her W gives her a shield, which allows her to deal with some of these ranged champions that are going to harass her early on.
I thought it was interesting from both teams as well, though, in the early game. Neither team really deciding to go after the enemy jungle. Both just playing conservative, playing smart, not trying to get too cute with it. They know the pressure in the situation of Game 3. They don't want to get caught out.
Yeah, both junglers on the Raptors right now after taking their red buff, as Yuke and I'ma Miss You Bud just kind of harassing each other a little bit out there. The poison, which you see the Singed laying down there, damages whenever you walk into that. So what he's going to do is he's basically going to walk around the mini wave and drop the poison down here. It's also one of the reasons why you never want to chase a Singe, because he'll be dropping the poison down behind him from that little canister there. And when you walk through it, obviously you're taking damage, but his built into his kit has a lot of ways to run away really quickly. So if you just chase him, usually you can't catch him, and you're just going to be taking damage the entire time you're doing that. So that's why he'll just start the poison trail as the mini waves comes in, so you can get the damage there. It takes mana per second as it is active. The toggle ability essentially, but it is very, very powerful, and his ability usually you max first, get that consistent damage. Kind of a unique champion, unique tank in that regard, where he has that poison trail.
Yes, it can be so almost annoying to play against, because you suffer those small amounts of damage really anytime you get near him as he's dropping that canister wherever he walks. We get a little bit of a scuffle here in the mid lane.
Yeah, a little bit annoying, well, very annoying is what I would call Singed. He's a very, very annoying champion to play against. Sometimes you'll even see Singed proxy waves, which basically means that they will go behind the turret in between the two turrets you see on the map right now on the top side. The outer one is obviously the outer one, which we are, the camera is on now right at the moment. And then the inner one is the one further down. He'll basically go in between those turrets because the range of the turrets isn't, don't like line up with each other. So there's a lot of room there where you can run. And it'll just proxy the wave using the poison to knock down the wave. And that way the minions will crash on the enemy turret and actually deal damage there while he's still getting the full farm and XP by just proxying it. It's a bit risky because the enemy can come down, especially the jungler can come down and try and catch you. But again, chasing Singe is pretty difficult, so you got to lock him down in order to actually take him down.
As again, we move a little bit around the map here. Nobody doing anything too crazy early. Looks like Thompson here is trying to establish some presence in that bot side river. They know that Drake will be spawning in relatively soon.
The only CS advantage really developing in the bot lane by about a wave. Everywhere else pretty even. Scuttle Crab's being traded here. Top side for Trundle and bot side for Sejuani here. So Talos gonna get one as now a big play here. I'm gonna miss you, bud. Going Mega Gnar. That's why he's much bigger than he was a moment ago. Here has only one ranged ability now. Trying to find the wall up stun. Will not be able to. Here's the gank coming in. Flashes past the pillar. Good job. I'm gonna miss you, bud. We'll get out safely there. Almost got the jump on Yuke there. Had to use the ghost to run away, but survives the gank. So that's the good news. But now without the flash.
And just using that flash to stay alive is so important. You'd much rather lose the cooldown than lose the takedown. So being able to recognize that situation, he was in a bad spot, able to flash away, reset, try it again. Smart from him.
And we got an Infernal here on the bot side, as we talked about before in Game 1. Infernal's great for the character of Jin, especially, but Veigar too. Jin and Veigar are probably the two best characters in the game that scale with Infernal Dragon, because Veigar gets AP over the course of a game by just hitting enemy champions and also lasting minions. He'll just slowly gain stacks of the passive, which is Phenomenal Evil. So he'll just gradually gain AP over the course of the game when you're hitting stuff anyway. And that will scale really well because, again, that'll give you a larger AP pool to then scale off of with the percentage you gain from Infernal. And Jin, as we talked about earlier, just has a lot of AD naturally because of the way his passive converts attack speed and crit chance into AD. So both these champions really, really, really love those Infernal Dragons, and picking them up will be really nice here, although we're only going to get one, so too bad.
We are only going to get one, but you'd rather have one than none. It almost seems like Thompson would plan into it, but again, the Drakes, which ones come through and when. A little bit of RNG, so you never really know, but it is an advantage early on if they can get it.
The unfortunate part is Sejuani's not very good at soloing the dragon here. Trundle's decent, but actually soloing the dragon for Sejuani is pretty difficult, so they're going to have to commit some members down to it for sure. Good news, though, they have TV advantage on the top side, so getting that priority rotation on the dragon and trying to fight over that is probably going to be possible for Thompson because they have that advantage. It may just even ward away them entirely, but right now Trundle on the bot side looking to maybe take this dragon. As we get a first blood on the top side already, didn't think it would happen, but the Singe just never really ran away.
Yeah, Singe, I think just being a little overconfident perhaps, getting really caught out there, not fully aware of that counter-attacking ability, just trying to move up forward, get that poison down, but just really caught out. That's going to be a first takedown for Thompson.
Well, quite unfortunate for the side of Thompson. They get that play topside, but they lose the dragon. Really quite a blow. Bob Jones with a good rotation over there. Sejuani topside, not able to contest here. Luckily, the rocket grab didn't land. That's the good news for Thompson, but losing the Infernal really, really hurts because, like we talked about, they use it so well.
Yes, but you can't let it get to you too much. You did get that takedown topside, so there is still an advantage for your teammates. You just lose it on Veigar and Jin as opposed to your top lane.
The Gnar getting ahead would be very good in this matchup as well. He's going to go Mega soon here, but the Singe running through the minion wave here. He actually used the ultimate there. The ultimate for Singe just gives him more stats, basically. So more regen on his mana and health pools, but also more movement speed, a little bit more other stats. So using that ultimate there, a little bit of a waste because the Gnar is going to just go back, but it does force him off the turret here, so he can't pick up any platings. That's probably why the Singe ended up using it here. But getting the Gnar head in the side lane would be really big because then it can then give another lane of pressure for Thompson, so that way the Veigar and Jin can scale up to what they're hoping to, for them to be in the late game if you have that side lane pressure with the Gnar, which Bob Jones will have to deal with eventually.
As again, we're looking at some pings here, perhaps looking at a take for the Rift Herald. That would be interesting, but I don't know how quickly they can get to it.
Rift Herald, they're pretty far away from it right now, but potentially taking it this early on would be massive because turret platings don't despawn until about 14 minutes. So that means that you have a lot of time between taking the Rift Herald. Basically, the maximum amount of time, because Rift Herald eventually will despawn in your inventory. You won't have access to it. It times out. So taking it now will be really awesome to get that early turret plating gold, as well as the earlier you get the gold, the more useful it can be, because then you're ahead of the enemy team, and you can use that to get even more leads. So getting that Rift Herald will be amazing here, but Sejuani not amazing at soloing objectives generally. With the Rift Herald Eye, you can do a lot of damage to it, but she doesn't have a kind of sustain at this point in the game, so she will take a lot of damage while she's doing it herself.
Again, it looks like we're finding some early pressure here. Nobody really overextending in the lane. Just trying to farm up, build through this laning phase, trying to get ahead where you can, and exploiting opportunities when you see them, but nobody really going overly aggressive, outside of perhaps the Singed early.
The Singed ends up being the first one to fall in this game. Not the end of the world, though. Singed is one of those champions where you will sometimes go 0-10, but you're still useful because the poison damage still stacks up and still is meaningful, and he still is pretty tanky and will eventually just flip someone in the enemy team. We talk about sometimes the Lee Sin or other champions being able to knock enemy champions in the team. Well, Singe, literally, his ability just does that. He just flips someone behind him. So he's great at just running in the enemy for a team fight and just getting someone they want into their, into their team. So that way the damage dealers don't have to walk as far forward to, hit them, which can be very useful. So Singe is always just like a champion that's annoying and useful to his team here. As an ult going to come through, the Gnar ultimate lands a lot of damage here as the Singe trying to run away, pops the Ghost. Will survive that, but a big trade on the top side once again for the Gnar. He's doing quite well this game, and the Singe having a tough time dealing with him. The CS is even, but the Gnar winning the trades.
Yeah, and the important thing as well for the Gnar is when Singe gets that low on health, he has to move back off the lane. He can't apply the pressure because he becomes susceptible to the takedown. So really nice from Gnar there, getting all that damage to come through, but Singe also doing well to stay alive.
Yeah, Singe has a lot of healing there. Corrupting Potion plus the Dark Seals means he gets extra effectiveness out of those potions, and his ultimate also, as we stated earlier, gives a bit more health regen, so he's going to be able to tank that up in lane, but still only at half health or so. Which is, evident because of the earlier trade. Gnar doing a good job there here. Both these junglers not really doing anything too aggressive on the map. The Dragon was taken, but that was really more because of a commitment topside by the Sejuani, and so the Trundle just took the Dragon. But really, the ganks have come through, but like really not been that effective, and most of them haven't done too much. So kind of interesting, a different pace in the game. Like we thought maybe it would slow down a little bit because game 3, but it slowed down quite a lot.
It certainly has, and when you're playing under this much pressure, you're trying to avoid as many mistakes as you possibly can. A lot of that takes away from the aggression. I'm wondering if the adjustment, though, is, okay, we know that both teams are playing safe. Let's try and make something happen so that way we can find an advantage where we may not otherwise see one.
11.5 minutes into the game here. 1-0 the score right now. But actually, Thompson's down in gold overall here. They're actually down by about 1,000 here. So Bob Jones doing a good job in the CS department. You can see leads in the bot lanes, mid lanes, even the jungle here. So they've done a great job in the CS department. That's what's helped them come back from that, losing that first takedown gold. So Thompson, excuse me, I mixed up their names. Thompson doing a good job there. As a hook gonna sail wide from Sheep. And it looks like we're going to go on to this dragon here. We got an Ocean Dragon as our second spawn. It looks like Thompson are setting up to take this.
They certainly are. And we talk about that CS advantage. It can be so instrumental because you want to deny the itemization and leveling of the other team. If you can deny CS and gold and experience, you can generate a huge advantage. And you can see Thompson now. They're using that advantage. They get the Ocean Dragon.
Yep. Another dragon going over. Black Shield going to deny that hook. So
very smart.
Blitzcrank's having a bit of a tough time. Last game is the Ornn, now it's the Morgana. He's like, just let me hit a hook, please, man. He's hit plenty before, but he wants more as Yuki and, I'ma miss you, bud, fighting once again the top side. But in the mini form, the Gnar can struggle in the trades once the Singe gets on top of him. So got to be careful of that here. As the Trundle down bot side, looking to potentially look for a dive maybe, but a quick defensive rotation coming in here from the side of Bob Jones to support their bot lane.
And just trying to protect that turret plating as well, as you saw there, almost off the entire second plate of that turret. Just making sure that they can deny Thompson the extra gold. As you mentioned, they are ahead. They don't want to give them any more than they need.
Certainly do not, as platings will expire in about 45 seconds here, as it looks like another top lane fight, but again, will not result in anything. The Singe just going to run away. That seems to be the story this time around, but here comes the dive. Diana here as well. The initial rocket grab going to miss the Sejuani with a good dash away. The Arctic Assault used defensively that time, and looks like the dive will be called off as Veigar rotated down, but now back to mid lane. The dive won't happen. The wave is gone. And Bob Jones lose the CS, but they don't lose any members, which is the important thing.
It certainly is. You don't want to give the advantage any further. This has been so even and back and forth already as we're nearing the 15-minute mark of this game. Just playing to not lose, right? It can be advantage in one sense, but awful in another. You just really have to pick your moments. That moment in the bot side, not great for them.
So we have a large CS lead in the bot lane here. Light Locust and Chief done a great job there in the 2v2. Got an advantage, plus the help from the dive, the pressure for the dive really got some more CS as well in their favor. 3 minutes on the Dragon. We got Rift Herald on the top side. Neither team really making massive moves on the map just yet, but Trundle may be looking for something top side. Sejuani still shadowing the bot lane to try and keep them safe.
I'm interested to see if, again, we're looking at some pings around that Rift Herald. I don't know if they'll make the move towards it, but both teams definitely scouting it out, trying to establish vision and presence in that river so they can make these kinds of plays. Seems to have slowed down. I was looking at a mid-fight here.
Looks like first turret going to go over here to the side of the Diana. And now an all-in attempt here, but the TP going to come in, going to save him. I'm going to miss you, bud, coming in here. As the Gnar will completely whiff the ultimate. Diana going aggressive, finds the first takedown here for herself. She's got the Rod of Ages, trying to heal with a Conqueror and stay alive here, but eventually the damage will come through. Talos will get the shutdown back across onto the Diana here. Has more damage being traded in the bot lane, but the mid lane traded themselves out. But first turret over to the Diana. Massive win there for her and her side. Thompson doing quite well here. As because of that TP, a lot of damage being done to the top turret. Flash in, the Blitzcrank going to find the hook of Blast Shield a bit too late here. The follow-up damage just isn't there though. Ace in the hole used, but a good block there by the Morgana. Flash in, Filter Peacemaker will not find the kill. As in the top side, the turret will fall here. Talos giving chase here. The Chilling Smite will slow the Singe, but he's so quick right now. Just running through the enemy team here. They can't even catch up. And the stun won't come through. The Sejuani's out of range. TP coming in now from Conceded. They're trying to give chase here. The Gnar running away. We'll go Mega in a moment here. Is going to tank in the bot side. The Jhin trying to run away here. The subs get used. Looks like the Jhin going to find the root, but not in turret range. So they will just re-dive him. The Trundle going to get the last, but no! Light Locust going to take it here. The Trundle not going to be credited with that one here. Binding underneath the turret. Event Horizon now used by offensively. The damage coming through. They will get revenge for their fallen AD carry friend. In fact, they get another one onto the support as well, so good rotation there by the Veigar, and Bob Jones recover, but Thompson pushing the pace and has a gold lead.
Wow, so much back and forth there in that whole sequence. Thompson doing a really good job, as you mentioned, building on their lead that they have and trying to force something to happen. But Bob Jones with a great counter, especially in that bot side there. Not only did they get the trades out, but they also protected that turret. There's not a ton of health left, but it makes a big difference in terms of holding the waves back. Certainly does. As this Diana is getting scarily strong. The Veigar is strong as well, but he just takes longer to become that menace that we expect him to be in the late game here. And a massive CS lead in the mid lane. 40 CS, essentially, or 50 CS, excuse me. Good math. 50 CS in the bot lane is the advantage right now. You can see the completed item in the Storm Razor versus parts for the Jhin. I mean, Caitlyn is just incredibly strong at the moment here with a massive advantage. From the turret gold, the CS, everything has added up to this. She is so far ahead right now between the AD carry positions. And now that's a concerning sign here because while the Singed has been struggling in the trades, he's actually up 30 CS, 20 CS or so, 25-ish in the top side. He's strong. The mid lane is strong. Everywhere's going quite well for Thompson here in game number 3. It seems like they're setting up for a victory. I'm wondering if in this next team fight, if they do manage to really come out ahead, can they press and get that next Drake or the net, or that either that Rift Herald as well still up? Either way, I'm thinking at this point they might be able to do it.
Good flash away.
Good flash.
Yeah, from the Morgana. The Diana just has massive damage. Dragon goes over. A binding going to stop the Sheep from chasing further, but the Dragon goes over. A third one over to Thompson's side. Looking for the soul next will be the Mountain Soul. So the terrain on the map a little bit more choked up, but also the Mountain Soul gives you a big shield, so it basically gives you a lot more health and some armor and magic resist as well. So you become a lot tankier than you normally would be without that soul here, as red buff can be stolen away as well. So the Dragons go over, the jungle now going over to Thompson, everything in their favor right now. They have a 4K gold lead, but actually down 3-2 in the score, but the turret's in their favor, the gold in their favor, everything else going the way of Thompson. There's so many different things to look at to measure a lead, right? It's not just as simple as saying, okay, well, this team has more points than the other, so they're winning. As you mentioned, so many different elements to it. They have the gold advantage, they have lane pressure advantage, objective advantage as well. Let's see if they can get some points, though. I think Thompson at this point might start to look for those team fights. These two teams have been the slowest of everyone we've seen play. And they, well, now going to try and find a pick onto the Trundle as Bob Jones High School. They will not find it, though. And he will have no flash any longer, but not able to get the pick off, which is what they really needed there. Going to start the Rift Herald here, but now sitting in the brush. Nobody tell them. Okay, well, the Rift Herald did it for us. Yeah, the Rift Herald kind of exposes it as a hook comes out there. Yep, Sejuani going to go into the enemy team here. Arctic Assault going to buy a lot of time here. And CC up. Already the Caitlyn falls. Curtain Call coming out. Now this is a big fight for Bob Jones. Curtain Call interrupted there thanks to the pillar here. Bob Jones trying to go through the choke point. Finding the damage. 4-shot from Drizzle going to come through. Massive damage. Bob Jones might be winning, but oh no, at the last second, turned around the Diana. Huge play offensively, the only one left alive here. We might find an ace coming in through just shy of 20 minutes offensively, trying to run away, but the Goop going to slow him and down. He will go to the fling of the Singed here. Massive play by Diana. Once again, Thompson mid laner comes up huge.
What a beautiful play from the Diana to get the double kill there. So huge for Thompson. That fight really could have gone either way. You saw tons of damage coming out on both sides, but really the Diana came in and ended that fight. Thompson now looking to press the attack.
And Diana, great turret taker here. She gets attack speed when she uses abilities, as well as gets a little bit of an empowered auto attack every third auto attack in a short amount of time here. So she's a really good turret taker, even has a stinger in inventory there for some extra attack speed and cooldown reduction. So she's great at taking turrets. Singed, not so much. You can get the minion wave in, but actually taking it down is tough here. She's got 4 people on the chase. No ghost here, no ultimate. I don't think he's going to get away.
I don't think so. 4v1 with Singed is not ideal.
Yeah, if you have the ghost and ultimate, maybe he gets lucky, jukes a few skill shots, but didn't have those available, and then eventually got CC'd, and, well, he can't run away if he's not moving. So, a bit unfortunate there. They lose 1 at the end of it, but Thompson, a great fight for them. And now they, haven't grown their lead by a mass amount, but get the mid lane turret, which is huge, and the Diana incredibly strong.
Yes, and we've talked about Thompson's mid lane so much, how strong they can be and take over these games. Again, you can see the 350 gold bounty on that Diana. I don't know if Bob Jones can take her down. It's very, very challenging at this point in the game.
She's also one of those champions that has sort of tankiness built into her kit. That shield really massive. So when she's ahead and building that AP, usually it's just damage you get, but you also get that tankiness as well out of it. So it's incredibly hard to knock it down one from ahead. And she's on the Gnar. Gonna get that second reset on the dash here to try and stick to this Gnar. And I think he'll probably go down. It's going to take a little bit longer. Here's a flash out, trying to find the stun. We'll get the wall-up stun, but the ultimate comes through, and it's just a matter of time before Conceited gets the takedown. He will there, his 4th, and the Gnar in the side lane goes down. He went for a split push build with the Frozen Melt into the now Black Cleaver, but he doesn't have any MR really besides those Merc Threats to deal with the Diana.
Yeah, and trying to flash away there as well, not really working out for him in that spot. I don't know if I agree with that call there. At that point, you're just kind of caught out. You don't want to burn the flash for no reason. You can just see flash goes out, and champion still gets taken down.
That's kind of the worst case scenario. You use the flash, and you don't get away. So that's unfortunate for the Gnar here. Offensively, maybe walking too far up. Conceited just like, all right, I'll take a fight, flash away, and the Event Horizon, make sure he stays alive. Definitely walk too far forward there on the Veigar. Bobby Jones just underestimating the power of Conceited at the moment.
Oh, that's a problem.
And that's the wrong place to go.
Yes, it is.
No Morgana there to Black Shield him here, but now a collapse in the top side. They're trying to find Conceited here. I'm going to miss you, bud. And, missed ultimate by the Sejuani there. Talos won't get it. They still get the shutdown, though, onto Diana. Unfortunately, they missed the ultimate, but they still get it here. Certainly worth it. The flash in, the hook going to land by Sheep. He's got no one there in support. All the damage carries have left him. He's maybe getting able to ignite, though. The Morgana will shield herself at the last second to get the airy proc. Looks like the Sheep will survive as well, so disengages. Most support still alive here. Light Locust walking through a choke point will get deleted by offensively here as he was caught in the cage and then just pressed the R button offensively with that one here. So maybe not the right place to path for both AD carries in the last couple of minutes.
No, just a very unfortunate sequence of events really for Thompson there. Kind of got caught out in the sense that,
hold on. Speaking
hooks.
of getting caught out, offensively in trouble, a fling into a hook, and now he's running the wrong direction. Back in the enemy team, and Event Horizon going to come down. A lot of damage onto Sheep. He's not able to quite find the last bit needed, though. And maybe the Blast Cone can get him out. Another Event Horizon. Blast Cone over the wall, the smite. Okay, he doesn't get away. He got over the wall into the waiting arms of Diana. Unfortunate there for the Veigar, but bought a lot of time, so that means his death not going to be quite as bad, but the Dragon will most likely go over for it. After a long chase on the Veigar, they're pretty burnt out, very tired, but will still want to take this Dragon for sure. Maybe still can come through. The Sejuani is not going to be here for another little bit as Concerted going in will dodge out on the root here. And ult's going to come down. Massive damage from Conceited. Already one over here. As, oh my god! The Jhin just stole the Dragon with a 4-shot. The Jhin flashed over and stole the enemy's Dragon they were starting there. He saves the soul. That's big, but they're going to lose a lot of members off the backside of this bot lane. Down, and now Talos will fall as well on this Sejuani here. Taking a while, but she will eventually fall to the weapon of Conceited, so they got it in the end. It just took a really, really long time.
Are you kidding me on that steal though? Jin, the absolute mad lad, just flashing right over, getting the steal. It doesn't do too much though, because the problem is you still end up losing the fight in the end.
Yeah, they still lose the fight and they don't get the soul for themselves. They just deny it from Thompson. As I missed you, bud, trying to run these 80 carry down. Heal going to be used, but in vain here. Is the TP going to come through, and the Sin already in the trap as soon as he TPs in. You can't cancel TPs anymore, so that's definitely an unfortunate change for that Sin. Just he wanted. Oh no!
Oh.
Okay, more to happen. Morgana gets hooked over the wall here. Sheep just going to pick that one up. A little bit too far forward there for the Morgana. So 2-1 in the end, but the 80 carry once again pathing in the wrong direction. Light Locust has had not some great luck in the last couple of minutes with that.
We've just seen some explosive trades here in the past couple of minutes. Both teams really trying to isolate other champions when they get the chance. You can see some of those hooks coming through, the stunts coming out, and really, as you mentioned, the pathing as well, trying to get through these jungle side positions, just not working out. Every single time, someone's been caught out.
Well, we've got Baron up now. We've got 3 minutes on Dragon here. It looks like Conceited wants to try and play the side lane, get some advantages there, but he's having a tough time getting through the Gnar. And the rest of the map, there's not really much to take for Thompson right now. Baron, pretty difficult for them. They have decent damage, but not like the Master Yi damage we saw last game here. So, going to be tough for them to knock it down too quickly. But establishing vision on the top side might be the big thing for them, and then also get that Singe in the side lane maybe to pressure that as well. As the Jin is just sitting in bot side, just trying to farm up to be strong for the next fight. As Caitlyn already on 2 items, he's only on 1.5. As another collapse on the Diana in the side lane here. Sejuani missing some of her key CC abilities, but they'll still get the root onto her. But the Diana's firing back here. Already won it down. Trade out there between Talos and Conceited in the end of 2 for 1, but they hold on to the turret for now. Is Yuke gonna give a chase on to Drizzle Crab? Or Drizzle Crash? I'm thinking of Crab. I'm thinking of the jungle. I got jungle on the brain.
Well, we've seen some great plays from that Diana. Unfortunately, she just gets a little bit caught out there in the end.
Speaking of, another hook from Sheep. That's the Gnar down Sheep with his, I don't even know how many hooks by this time. His 8th assist, but probably like 10 or 12th good hook.
Yeah, we've seen really the difference for Thompson has honestly been Sheep coming out with those hooks. He's so precise with it, and he just gets them over the wall. It's so unexpected and disorienting. Again, being able to isolate enemy champions into a 1v2 or 1v3 situation, so key into picking up a lead.
Well, the big thing, too, Diana on 3 items already, looking for her 4th in the Rabadon's death cap coming up soon. If she gets that, I don't think anyone really survives her for too long. Even this Gnar and Sejuani, you take a little bit to knock down. I mean, that's just going to be a massive item to pick up here. Another 1.5 on the Dragon, which gives another chance to soul here for Thompson. But they've had a tough time really, finishing this off. 4 shot last time, going to steal the Dragon by Drizzle Crash. The good news is once this Dragon spawns, you want to flash up, so maybe they can take it then. But got to secure that soul. I think that'd be really big for them to win these upcoming fights in the next couple of minutes, especially around the Baron. Being able to have that huge shield to stop a lot of that damage early on is huge for them. As Diana in the side lane, now on the bot side this time.
Again, both teams sort of feeling each other out here. Look at the presence, though, from Bob Jones on that top side. They now have to recall. It's being forced out, or maybe they're canceling it off. We'll see. Again, Diana picking up a turret on the bot side.
And the Diana, wherever she goes, it's hard to match her. They got to call multiple members from Bob Jones down to stop her. It's hard to break open the base for sure because, a melee champion can't, hit those turrets very easily unless, everyone's gone. But she's putting a lot of pressure on the map for sure, and this mid lane inhibitor turret, just on a sliver of health at the moment here. Baron, or Dragon, rather, in 30 seconds. Baron's still up available, of course. It's been there for 8, almost 9 minutes here, but neither team made a move on it yet. But now we're waiting for this next Dragon to spawn for that second attempt at the soul.
Yes, and this definitely seems like the point of contention for Bob Jones. They understand how important the soul is. They got very fortunate, I would say, very skilled play, but very fortunate still to steal the last one. They know they have to contest this one again.
Hard to recreate that magic for sure. Jin 4-shot is starting to do more than Smite on the execute because it does just so much damage here, and he's got it again. No flash though. Or actually, no, he does have flash up. He's going again too early. They didn't take the Dragon quickly enough, so the flash came up again, but he flashes over this time. Not going to get it. You can't do it twice. That's just too crazy here. And the Soul will go over Mountain Soul to the side of Thompson.
Yeah, just a little bit too much to ask there from the one individual player to hop in. When you have that much concentration of damage, you're really just hoping to trade your existence on the Rift for the Drake. It doesn't come through. A little bit poorly timed. And it feels like Thompson might be able to run away, especially if they pick up Baron.
Yep, and losing the AD carry certainly means that they should take Baron here without too much of a fight. The Veigar's strong, but not going to have enough damage for everyone here. Sheep caught out a little bit here, going to get caught by the Event Horizon, but just hooks the Veigar back in to meet him here. And now Sheep will fall, but now Yuke in on the chase here as the Baron still being taken right now. But here comes the Diana. Maybe he can clean up the fight, but a double now for the Gnar. They lose 2 members, so only Baron on 3. That's kind of big for Thompson, right? They only have the jungle, mid, and AD carry. So that's unfortunate for them. They don't have another side lane pressure with a Singed with having Baron, but Thompson still get it. At 30 minutes, they've got the Soul. Can't really complain too much.
No, trading 2 lives for the Baron isn't horrible, especially when you're already ahead. It's just a question, really, of how quickly can they use the Baron buffs that are still up to apply that pressure in the different lanes.
And Death Cap completed. Rabadon's Death Cap for the Diana here. Massive item. 3rd item for the Caitlyn as well. And Drizzle Crash still working on his 2nd. So big difference in the AD carry positions. The Veigar doing a good job. He's on 3 items, but the Diana has just been so far ahead this entire game. Stopwatch inventory as well. She's getting close to full build. Only needs 1 more item, really, unless she wants to sell boots too. But no one can 1v1 her, that's for sure. 2v1, maybe if you have the right people there. Diana super, super strong here. The Caitlyn strong as well. You got the Baron buff and the Dragon Soul. It looks like Thompson just need to close this one out. But this is the time in the game where you can step a little bit too far forward. All of a sudden you throw away a shutdown or 2. You throw away your lead. You walk too far forward in the wrong place. Get bound up by a Dark Binding from Morgana or something else happens, and that's how you throw the game here. Right now, they're not synced with the waves. Singe still in his own jungle taking red buff right now. But he needs to be there to help out with that siege. Even if he doesn't have Baron buff, getting that 2nd wave of pressure with a minion wave would still be really big here. So he's a little bit behind the enemy team, or not the enemy team, his own team. So he needs to get there and pressure that side wave here in the top side. But that being delayed is taking a lot of pressure off Bob Jones here. The engage going to come through. Flash in, double Gnar ultimate here. It's a 5v4. Singe is not here. It's not TP'd yet here. Into the backline goes the Trundle. He's going to find 1 here, but Drizzle Crash doing a lot of damage here on the other side. Light Focus. He's got massive damage here. The Diana's still alive, looking for another engage here. Hook not going to find anyone. Just a minion that time. So an even 2 for 1, really, which is Bob Jones. I mean, that's the best they could have hoped for. But still in a 5v4, you would want more, and you need more to save this game here as the inhibitor going to fall.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they just needed a little bit more there because they had the man advantage, not really able to capitalize. 2 for 1, not simply going to do it. More pressure now in the base.
Well, here's Sejuani trying to help out her AD carry here. Drizzle Crash trying to get the movement speed to get away, but Yuke going to shut him down here with the flip. And now it looks like on the other side here, already 1 Nexus Tower down here, conceded. Light, Locust, and Sheep still working as 3-man unit to take down the mid lane inhibitor here. 1 Nexus Tower down, just looking for 1 more, and the inhibitor tower will fall on the top side to the minions and Yuke here. Talos trying to find him before he can get away, but again, the Poison Trail with it, Rylai's slows him down, and it looks like Thompson, 2 inhibitors, a Nexus turret, a 3rd one open. Not going to be able to end the game here, but they're pretty damn close.
Yeah, they're certainly well on their way to coming out ahead in this game. We're 33 minutes in. Bob Jones, they really got to make a play on the next objective, I think. It's really their only hope. They got to make sure to survive this press on their base and just try and wave clear and push out to the point where you can challenge an objective.
That's what you're going to try to do. Can they do it? Oh, man, it's tough. Bob Jones now in a really awkward spot. They don't really have a lot of good options. The only real saving grace is this Veigar. The longer the game goes on, the stronger he becomes. Forever. He scales infinitely. Basically, very few champions in the game scale like that. Even Jhin technically has a limit because you can only have so many item slots, to actually put into items here. The Veigar, though, which continually scale up further and further, scales infinitely. He does not have a limit on how much AP he can get. Well, he might in code, but if we reach that, we'll be here for like 20 hours, so effectively no real limit. So I think this Veigar could be the saving grace for them, and he's got great wave clear. I mean, he deletes the waves. The super minions still take a while to clear, but the basic minions, the melees and the range minions will be deleted by just a couple spells there from the Veigar. So That's the good news. The bad news, you lost a soul. You lost a Baron. And another Elder coming up. Well, the first Elder, but another Dragon coming up in about 50 seconds. That could be the end here, but it looks like Thompson already pressuring them in the base here. 3 inhibitors soon to be down as Diana coming up the top side.
It's really smart from Thompson here to continue to push. As you mentioned, that Elder Drake coming up. They want to box Bob Jones into their own base for as long as they can. They can then fall back into the Drake if they elect, or if they get enough pressure here, which seems like they may. They could simply.
Well, here comes the Diana 5-man ultimate. It's already over. Bob Jones, they're trying to stay in this game, but it's already too much. Thompson raining down the damage. The Nexus is open. The Sejuani's down. The Gnar is going to go down here. Only the Jhin left alive in the fountain. I don't know if they'll even let him live as Sheep looks for the hook, but the game is over before they can get it. Oh my goodness, what a game. Some of the longest games we've ever had, but finally in the game 3 we get a deciding victory here. Thompson take it.
Congratulations to Thompson. They played incredibly well throughout this entire series. They dropped the first game, but so well done to them to turn it around, take games 2 and 3, the reverse sweep really. Just being able to stay composed, having the mental capacity and the focus to continue to play well, and yeah, give them a lot of credit. They are your Alabama High School Athletics Association League of Legends champions.
A massive turnaround from them there. We got to see a lot of unique picks too. The Diana in game 3, but game 2, the Master Yi. Just a lot of crazy stuff coming out of them. Massive champion pools for some of those guys, which really helped them after 5 mid lane bans were levied against them. They came through a lot here, end up taking it in this one. Unfortunately, we're not going to get 2 Bob Jones titles today, but what a game from Thompson. What a series from Thompson. So many unique things. And battling back. First best of 3 series and first reverse sweep here. Really impressive from those guys. Congratulations to them.
They, again, played so well. But you also have to give credit to Bob Jones as well. They did really well to get to this point. They played a really smart and solid game 1, I thought, too. It was a close game that could have gone either way. They just couldn't quite pull it out in the end.
So close. Unfortunately, they're not able to find the win here. And Thompson High School, what a comeback from them. Great stuff. We're going to go to a short break. We got more stuff coming here, but let's hear from Necra coming up in just a second here as we transition to her and get to see her again, her lovely face.
Simperino, and what an incredible League of Legends series. Commiserations to Bob Jones High School. They will be walking away with the Rocket League title, but just barely fell short for that League of Legends championship. The PlayVS Fall 2019 championship is going to go to Thompson High School, a well-earned victory for them. I'm sure the energy in the Eplex Arena is just astounding right now. Go ahead and check that place out because it's built specifically for places and events just like this one for the PlayVS High School Championships here in Alabama. And I want to give a special thanks to the Alabama High School Athletics Association for providing support to all of these players to be able to play their esport as a part of their extracurricular activities. What an amazing way to spend high school. I wish I could have done that when I was in high school. And if you were inspired by some of that gameplay, then maybe you want to compete yourself. Head over to playversus.com. That is PLAYVS.com, so that you might sign up for the Spring 2020 Championships happening very soon. But a short break, and when we come back, we've got the rest of the doubleheader for you, so stay tuned.